Yeah.
This is Overcast.
I'm horrible with it.
So you're going to go through all this footage and put it together?
Fuck no. I have my cousin. My cousin does all this. My cousin will go through and just fucking...
I need a cousin.
He's great. Except he's got red hair. That's the only part that's bad about him. Here's the deal with, I think, with all fucking television shows. Unless you have... everyone wants you to have a hit. Yeah. Everyone wants you to have a hit and then to piggyback on it. Are you taking a dip? Snooze. Oh, seriously? No, I haven't. Dude, snooze for me is like heroin, I think, for people. Because if I took one dip, I'd be back 100%.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And I'm going to Texas. I'm running cattle through Texas next week.
So, me too.
But so
wait, no, I'm doing South by Southwest. Never mind.
Are you really?
Totally different.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I know Bill and Al are doing something at South by Southwest.
Yeah, I'm doing their podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, live at it.
And then I know Rogan's doing something at like a Whole Foods. Everyone's doing something out there.
Rogan's doing something at a Whole Foods?
Yeah, he's doing, because he has that company On It. He has a company called onit.com. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not called onit.com, it's called On It. But and they do like supplements and stuff like that.
Oh.
So he's doing a speech talking about supplements and nutrition. He's all about life optimization.
I'm a big, because they do like the brain pills and stuff like that.
Yeah. Those when I really got into lucid dreaming was on those.
Oh yeah, he's all into lucid dreaming. And
yeah.
Have you ever done his? What is that tank that you go in and it?
No, but the first time I met him, I literally was like, "Hey man, I got to see the tank." Like I was at his front door, gonna do his podcast, didn't know him at all, and I was like, "I need to see the tank, I need to see the dog, I need to see the pool table, and then I'm ready to do the podcast." I was like, I'm gonna have to geek out. The tank's fucking huge. It's like the size of this room.
Is it underground?
It's under. Yeah, technically it's underground, but only because I think it's like on the bottom level of his house.
Okay.
But yeah, it's big, and he's like, "Get in there, man, do it." He's an interesting guy like that. He's like, "Do it. Eat a ton of edibles, get fucking weird as fuck, and get in there." I
can't do that.
I don't have that brain.
I don't like to eat edibles anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
When did you stop?
They just make me feel like I'm dying all the time.
Yeah, I don't
like
understand.
it's just a constant
that.
panic attack.
I've done drugs, so. But I always am weird about that because I do have children and they're going to grow up and one day they'll listen to this and you'll be a fucking movie star and they'll be like, "Shut up, my dad interviewed Nick Thune." And I'll go and they'll be like, I love Nick Thune. He was at our house. And then
they want to hear it and then you talk about doing
and then I'm like, well, and my kids will be at the age. This will be in 5 years and Georgia's going to be 15 and she'll be like, "Oh wait, Dad did edibles? Oh, shut up. I can do edibles." And that's
not on any CD or you've never done anything else where you've mentioned.
Oh,
you're pretty good about talking about your drugs.
I've talked about taking acid and going to Disneyland, but I feel like
with your kids.
No. So, but yeah, I edibles for me. Like the one time I took them with. I ended up taking them with my dad because but Joey Diaz gave some to my dad on accident. And then I took some, and it was fun. We had a really great time. I've talked about this a bunch, but
you gave them to your dad on accident.
Yeah, well, I think he might have given them on purpose, but my dad took them on accident, and so we had a really good time. We did. My dad and I had a great conversation. But the next morning, I woke up with, and I can only describe it as searing anxiety, like searing panic.
Do you think you were still?
I was very much still, and it was just like an actualization of all things that scared me.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
Edibles will do that. I mean, in kind of the way that mushrooms. I've never had a bad mushroom trip, but I've been with someone you probably, another comedian. I don't need to name drop this younger comedian, but
tell me who it is.
He full on flipped out. And we actually talked about it on his TV show, Pete Holmes.
Oh my Jesus Christ! I cannot imagine doing mushrooms with Pete Holmes. I've been listening to Pete. Pete's one of those fascinating people I find in that he's full of positive energy. He's very deep. I'm not that deep. I like his podcast because he can ask very insightful.
He's into like the lucid dreaming stuff.
Is he?
Yeah.
I got to talk to him about that.
I'm into Lucinda Wilson. Wait, no, Williams?
Williams.
No, that was... God, if I would have nailed that would have... Can we edit this? Can your cousin go back?
Yeah.
I'm into Lucinda Williams.
Take it from the top. I did a TV show with Bert, Ernst, and someone cracked a champagne bottle over a goat's head. It was this guy who had PTSD and he was kind of falling apart.
Was it a stand-up show?
No, it's a long time ago. It was like a reality show we did. and he like it might have been a champagne flute, but he broke it over a goat's head, and it fucking silenced the room. Like everyone was like, "What the fuck?" The guy had just gotten back from Afghanistan. He was going through some shit. He thought it would be funny.
He was showing off, yeah.
And no one found it funny. Mm-hmm. I don't find any harm to animals humorous in the slightest. And it was quiet, and Bret Ernst goes, he had it coming to him. It was so funny. It was so funny. Then the cameraman goes, "Oh man, I wish I had shot that." But he goes, "You didn't do it? Do it again." I go, "Bret, Ernst, we're never gonna use this." And he was like, "Just have it." I go, "No, we're never gonna use, like, this will never get used in the show." And he's like, "Just to have it." And I go, "No, no one's gonna have some fucking goat getting brained by glass."
Yeah.
And then Bret did it for like 5 more times.
Still did another take, and it will never be as good as the first take. I know those moments.
Yeah.
And it's always frustrating when you're shooting something and something great happens, and people are supposed to be capped, and it's just like, "Oh yeah, I didn't get it. Can we?" And it's like, no, you can't recreate the goat champagne flute scenario.
Do you feel that way about like stand up? Because I believe that way about stand up. I believe there's something, and I don't know where I got this term. I think I got it maybe from like a trailer, but there's the angel's breath, which is the stuff that is, the angel's share is what it's called. But I call it the angel's breath because I'm inaccurate. But what I believe is it's those moments on stage that you will never recapture and you can't recreate.
Yeah.
And you can't, and it's part of the reason I believe it happens in life where there's just these great fucking moments happen and they disappear. And I like that I'm a person that can make those happen in my life. Mm-hmm. But like some people try to recreate this. Like when you watch like bad stand-ups recreate their...
I tried that recently with a bit.
What?
Well, I did like this 2-week tour, and the first night, and if I'm going to be at a show, you're going to see a lot of people in the audience that kind of look like me. There's a lot of dudes with beards.
Yeah.
And chicks with beards. And guaranteed in almost every show, there's a guy in the front row who is aspiring to kind of dress and look a little bit like me, or maybe I'm trying to look like him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in the first show, I looked down at him, and I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier about FaceTime. And I looked down and I was like, "Sir, it's nice to have somebody in the front row that looks just like me, because I feel like now the show is like one big FaceTime conversation, and anytime I want to look at myself, I can just look down." Because that's all I like doing anyway. I'm just looking at myself, or whatever. Yeah. But because it was in the moment, and because everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I watch myself on FaceTime."
Yeah.
It crushed, and then the rest of the tour, I was chasing that dragon. And it maybe hit 2 other times out of 14 shows. Yeah. But it's never going to be a consistent, that's a moment. And there always will be a guy in the front row that could be my FaceTime guy. Yeah. But yeah, it's tough. Unless it's a written joke and the timing's just, that's how it goes.
I don't have those. I don't have any like, I might have like some written jokes. I have more stories.
Yeah. But your story's going to build to an arc at this point, and then it's going to end with this.
I wish I always had like shorter... I wish I could like fucking get me out of the hole jokes, like where I could just hammer 9 in a row and be like, "All right, we're good."
Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. That was like my style for a long time, was these one-liners, and then I had a kid, and just a lot of things changed.
Everything fucking changed.
Yeah, and I didn't care as much about being this character on stage that was presenting these ideas, or what, I became more interested in telling stories and some about my life and being real. And then what I've found is, because I spent so much time writing those jokes, that those jokes kind of naturally pop into the story as time goes on, as you go live. And every time you tell a story, you find a new little moment that, if you set it up right, will work every time.
What was the kid planned?
Yeah. I mean, not planned then. It was discussed, like, we're okay to have a kid, and then
that's my wife and I were. My wife and I were. I've been weird about this. I've been weird about this because I got a weird reaction one time. But Georgia was not planned. Mm-hmm. However, I had already bought the engagement ring to get married to my wife, and I knew my wife was ready to have kids. That's why we kind of got set in motion, but was not planned. And I always wonder. I think in our line of work, I don't think we're not those. Ron Bennington calls them ham and eggers. Those guys who go, "All right, I get a job, I get job security, life insurance. Mm-hmm. I'm going to buy a ring. I'm going to save up, and I'm going to ask the girl not to do that accent. That's that guy."
Well, or like Dan Mintz, if you know Dan. He's a stand-up. But like a guy like him thinks that it through, and actually bought this computer program where it calculated how much money he needs to support a kid, and like got to that place and then said, okay, let's have a chat. You know, like boom, boom,
I'm
boom.
not that guy.
No.
I think money shows up. I believe
Yeah.
it. I go, you know what? If I keep doing what I love doing, money shows up. And if it doesn't, then I still am doing what I love doing. Like, I've been very broke. I remember being very broke in the back of a car with you one time. I remember, I don't know if
what city were we in?
Me, you, and Ben Glebe were doing a podcast.
Oh, yes. And we were driving down to Irvine. Was that what it was? Yeah.
And I was so obsessed. With like how talented you were. And I was like, remember sitting next to you going, dude, I mean, like, I remember
borrow money?
This happened like twice. Because I was so obsessed with how talented you were that I was like, I remember being bummed that I didn't feel like no one was seeing it. Tons of people were seeing it. I didn't know that, but I was obsessed with it. And I saw you again like 2 weeks later, and I introduced you to my touring agent, and I was like, Matt Frost, we dropped you off at your hotel in New York, and I said, Matt, you gotta fucking sign. This guy's the funniest guy I've ever seen. He's fucking, and I was like, and you're making videos. I go, and these videos are fucking great. Like,
yeah, back then, that was the YouTube, my start.
Yeah.
Those never really got viral or anything, though.
What are you talking about?
Like, I think at the time they got, like, one of them's built up, millions now. But, like, at the time it was just, people weren't putting content that was written on YouTube at that point. It was all home video.
You're fucking bullshit. You had
the one I put on Funny or Die. That one.
You had so many videos. You had so many videos that were so fucking funny. What was the one where you walked in to your roommate and you were jerking off?
See, that was like the best moment of accidental, like it just hit because that was my first joke that I could say I ever wrote. Like I actually wrote this joke, which I'll tell, it's stupid, but I walked in on my roommate while I was masturbating. It was the original part of the joke, but I wrote it in a bathroom at Hallenbeck's Sandwiches open mic. Do you remember that open mic?
No.
It was in North Hollywood off like Magnolia.
Yeah.
And you had to pay $4 and they actually gave you a thing and you get a free sandwich with the $4, but that gives you a spot on the show. And the person before me, I think Paul Dank was on stage, Paul Danke. And I was sitting in the bathroom and I was just kept saying over my head, like, I was peeing and I kept saying, my roommate walked in on me while I was masturbating. My roommate. And then I just had this moment where I said, no, I walked in on my roommate while I was masturbating. And then he got off stage and they go, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Thune. And I literally went on stage and told it 45 seconds after coming to it.
Yeah.
And it crushed. And nothing else that I'd ever written could follow that one joke.
Oh,
wow. And then it like changed my whole perspective on writing in that one moment, which was kind of great. But after I wrote that joke, my friend was like, let's make a video. And I was like, okay. It's like, let's just make something super short.
I want to say it was like under 30 seconds.
It was 18 seconds. And then he had a meeting at Funny or Die, which wasn't even a website yet. It was like Will Ferrell and these guys starting a site. And he went in and he was like, they were like, because he's a director. And then he ended up directing Zombieland after that.
You serious?
Yeah, but not, this was way before Zombieland. And he said, I do have one, because they were like, do you have any videos? They're like, well, I have this one I just shot with Nick Thune, and he showed it to him, and they're like, fucking perfect, give it to us. And he never even told me, hey, I gave this video to Funny or Die.
Yeah.
And then Funny or Die has this big start. I didn't even know of the site, and all of a sudden everyone's, have you seen Funny or Die? And I fucking go to the front page, and my video is on the front page next to the Landlord video, just right next to it.
Really?
And it just, everything exploded that day. It was
fun. I remember seeing that and going, that was the and I say this wholeheartedly, that was the inspiration for me and my buddy Croy to shoot. We did a video about two guys. Fuck, I don't know. I even forget
the Landlord video.
No. Yeah. No, your video was the inspiration for me and my buddy Croy shooting a video where I was outside a bathroom and I was reading a pregnancy test, how to use it. Hold it under the stream for 3 seconds. And then my buddy, Croy was. And then I come out and I go, I'm not pregnant. And he goes, and then you hear the voice go, you can always find a reason to drink. Like, and then we both break Budweiser. And I was like, wow, that's great, because I think I had something.
Just super quick like that.
Yeah, man. And Leanne I'd been through. It was Leanne's pregnancy test that she had done with Georgia. So like I was like fucking there. We used the extra 2 that come with it.
Oh yeah.
So because when she took her pregnancy test, I was like, I remember thinking, I'm drinking either way. Mm-hmm. Like if she's pregnant, I'm celebrating, and if she's not pregnant, I'm gonna fucking go, oh, that was a close call.
let's get
And I was
wasted.
like, yeah. I was like, I don't really give a fuck. I'm drinking either way. And I remember thinking, this is fantastic. And I was like, it could be either way. And I wanted to shoot it with Leanne. And then I thought, oh, it's funnier if we shoot it with a guy. And
I came back from just talking about pregnancy tests from West Valley, Utah. Like the it's a Wise Guys, right?
I've not performed there, but I've been to Utah a lot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I came back and she just had 6 pregnancy tests laid out on the counter because she just wouldn't believe it.
They're all
Just laid out. And I walked in and just saw it on the counter, and she came around the stairs and looked at me and was like, yeah.
They should sell a mega pack with a line just to make sure.
Just try out 6.
Who does one? Who buys one pregnancy test?
You want to give out souvenirs at your batch, whatever, your bridal party.
That's so funny. Is this a chick you've been dating for a while?
Yeah.
Even with her.
I dated her when I was 18 to 21, and then she broke up with me because I had 0 direction and wasn't in college like everyone else that we knew, and then moved to was already doing stand up, moved to LA, and then came back and did my first college show at University of Washington, and got a hold of her, invited her, and she, from then on we just kind of started.
This isn't the chick that dated that dude that we ran into that was awkward
Yes.
as fuck. Do you remember that? I was like, we'll fight him if you want.
Well, this was called the Bamboozle Festival. It was in Orange, New Jersey, and we were playing on an outdoor stage in a parking lot, and it was like emo / bands that want to be Blink 182. Blink 182 is too big at the time to do this festival.
Yeah.
And we were just standing there talking, and all of a sudden you just see me look over your shoulder and just fucking ball up.
Yeah, and I was like, and you're like, what? And you're like, oh fuck, oh god. And this guy comes up and he's like, what's up, Nick? He was like, it was the creepiest fucking guy.
Yeah, and he's in this band that was radio rock, totally famous.
I still know the name of the band.
Yeah.
I've said that name of that band a couple times in my head. I'm
Yeah.
not going to tell you the band because fuck that guy. I'm not even going to tell you
I
the
don't
band.
even know if they're still a band. I'm sure they're still a band.
I don't think they are, but I'm sure he still
has
has bangs.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
His outfit was so.
If Def Leppard was still playing now, but progressed into more of an emo kind of.
And you're like, oh, this is awkward. And then he left and I don't think he even said hi to me, and then walked away. I was like, what was that about? And then I think Mitch Fattel walked up and he's like, hey guys. And killed. And I remember that out of that whole show, these are the things I remember. Mitch Fattel, I remember that moment. I remember introducing to Frosty. I remember there was a guy named Josh that I used to love in New York who introduced me to Rick Shapiro. He was
was Shapiro at that thing too?
No, but this guy Josh was. I think Josh was the host for the whole festival.
Oh.
And I remember
Birbiglia was on that festival. Do you remember that?
No. Yeah. I don't think I knew who Birbiglia was then.
Oh, okay. I had opened for him. That was kind of my first big, I got to open for him on college tour.
Oh my God, that one has been amazing.
Yeah. And that's what I got. I did my half-hour special after doing 28 dates with him, and it would never have been anywhere near what it was if I didn't, 28 dates.
That was a great half-hour special.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe my favorite part was the fact that I felt, and this is one of the things I do love about you, is I felt like you took control. Because all half-hour specials were like, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Tom Segura. But yours was, your agent calls, dude, you got the gig, bring your axe.
Yeah.
I loved it. I just thought it was so great.
And then there was that was actually there was a tent. It was a camping setup. There was an axe and a log. It was.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people just had their name in the background.
Yeah.
Big
it
letters.
It was really great. And some guys would have Gary Valentine had I don't know why I remember Gary Valentine's, but he had a baseball field in the back.
Oh, he did?
Because he played shortstop. He was actually a really great softball or
God,
baseball
I love
player.
Baseball.
Do you?
Yeah.
Really? Did you play?
I did, yeah.
Like Brody play or just?
No. I played going into high school and then drugs and alcohol kind of.
I played throughout high school, recruited to go play at the Citadel, Duke, and not really Florida State, but I did say I'm going to Florida State, and they said you can walk on if you'd like, and I was like, fuck yeah. They're like, come play Legion ball up here in Tallahassee this summer. You're gonna be at summer school, play Legion ball, and then we'll watch you, but you can walk on. I was like, great. I was gonna be a bullpen catcher. I knew that. I know that now.
You were a catcher.
I was a catcher, yeah. And Coach Martin's son was a catcher.
Your knees all kind of screwed up because of that?
No, not really. Not really. My feet are screwed up.
Yeah.
That's the part of me that hurts. I think I don't drink enough water. But I loved your half hour special. You're one of those people that I kind of feel like I had no connection to. I never took on the road. I never really like we're not very similar guys, but I really liked watching you do stand up. I've always liked stand up that's not like mine. And I liked watching you stand up, and you're always very nice. And I was like, there's something like either he's so nice he's fake, or there's something different. And then I heard your WTF, and I was like, oh, he's the greatest guy in the fucking world.
Oh, God.
I love that WTF. That's my favorite.
Oh, thank you.
You, Big J. Okerson.
I need to hear his. I've heard his is great.
His might be the best WTF. And then the old school ones. I like the new ones. I get, I'm not going to critique Mark. Every interview Mark does is fantastic. He's an amazing interviewer. But some of the ones I just kind of like, I'm like, I don't really know that person. And then
I'm more into the comedians than the musicians. I just don't. When he does a musician,
Jacob Dylan was a really great one.
And I liked who did he do? I actually didn't like this one because this is one of those guys you don't want to know anything about. But Nick Cave.
I didn't listen to that.
It's like I don't want to know anything about that dude. I like the mystery in him. Not
I like the one he did with the girl from Slater Kinney.
I haven't heard that one.
That was a good one.
Like Carrie Brownstein?
Yeah, because I liked Slater Kinney when I was in college.
Well, she's so funny too because like Portlandia, so like that whole.
Well, yours was the best, and I ran into you, and I was like at the Improv, and I was like, I remember I was on a plane, and I was listening to it. I was like, oh, I wonder what. I mean, I thought I'd hear typical stuff like where do you buy your boots? How do you groom your beard? Like certain things that and you just got very honest about your whole upbringing and your whole belief system, which no comic does, and all of us. Some guys are brazen about having no faith in God or just believing there's no God and just being atheistic. I'm not that guy. As a matter of fact, one of the things I said to Rogan when I first met him is I applauded him on. I said I really loved your last special because you talked about faith and you didn't shit on people that have faith.
Yeah.
You said there's people out there that have faith, and if that helps them get through fucking every day, who the fuck am I to? I'm paraphrasing. Who the fuck am I to say that that's wrong? And he didn't shit on people of faith, and I remember saying like, "Fuck yes."
It's so easy to do that, and it makes me sick. And one of the coolest texts I got after I talked about that was from Anthony Jeselnik, who is an athist who's open about it.
Very. I would say he's probably the definition of what you'd imagine an atheist to be, a nihilist almost.
Yeah. And he sent me a text that said, if all Christians were like you, I wouldn't hate Christians. And I was like, that means that I hit people that hate religion and hate those people. But I was so scared after taping that. I remember I left because he had been mean to me a whole bunch of times. And I remember going in wanting to be like, fuck you, you're the fuck, and then I just realized, oh, I can't, that's his game. Yeah. And if I just be honest about my life, then this won't be like a bulldozing, because eventually he was like, oh, yeah, I can't be a dick to you.
You were like naked honest.
Yeah. And that was scary for the month he didn't release it.
Yeah.
I went home. Yeah. And I was really struggling with my faith then, still always, but I remember going there angry, and I got there 10, 15 minutes early, and I sat in my car, and for the first time I prayed in like, I don't know how long. And when I went home and I was telling my wife, like, oh, I'm so scared. I think I overexposed myself. I think people are going to hate me. And she said, but you said you prayed beforehand. And I was like, yeah. And she said, well, then why are you can't worry about it then. And it was like, she's like that. I'm not. Yeah. I still worried about it. But I look back and that was an interesting moment.
That month must have been terrifying. Because were you afraid?
And you know how popular, and that was, I think, like either 114, I think. He had done 104. So it was still really new.
I would say, and I'd say he's still in his stride. Mm-hmm. Guys like him, Rogan, and Carolla. Him and Carolla. Rogan and Carolla did an amazing podcast the other day because Carolla, for the first time, and I hope this comes off appropriate, was vulnerable. Was very was talking about not having money after having money and having to get into stand up and not knowing how to do it. And I was like, holy shit, this is a great interview.
Carolla?
And Carolla, you get this like
on Maron?
On
Rogan.
On Rogan. And Rogan's real good at not feeling like he's interviewing you. Mm-hmm. Like all of a sudden he gets something out of you and you're like, oh shit.
I know. Actually, that happened. That happened the last time. I've done his a few times, and then I haven't done it since this one time where, you never know why somebody stops asking you to do something.
No, I think
it's generally because
I don't
they're not even thinking about it.
They're not thinking about it. Like someone said to me, Russell Peters said to me, texted me the other day, and he goes, "How come you've never?" This is like a month ago. He goes, "How come you never asked me to be on your podcast?" Quite honestly, I thought he was too busy. I was like, he'll never want to do my podcast. That's it. And I just was like, I'd love to talk to him.
Talk about the nicest guy.
I was at his house yesterday.
You were?
Doing a podcast, and he is the sweetest fucking guy in the world.
So I was shopping with my wife, like at the Grove or something. This is years ago. And I didn't know him that much. But he had said something about me in the New York Times, like, because I had some joke. And they were like, "What's the best joke you've heard lately?" And he quoted me. And then they put my name in, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm in the New York Times. It says my name. And a week later, I run into him at the Grove, and my wife's trying on jeans, and he's with his wife or girlfriend at the time, and talk for a few minutes, and I tell him how grateful I am. And then he leaves. And then I said to my wife, "Do you want to buy the jeans?" And she's like, "Yeah, let's get them." So we go to the counter, and as I give them to the lady behind the counter, we're going to buy these. And she just hands the jeans over in a bag and says, "The gentleman who just left already bought them for you."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what a thank you, because I couldn't afford to buy these jeans for my wife. Not getting that New York Times residual.
he's one of the most generous, sweetest guys, and and he's very similar to all of us. You know, it's like you think because he's very wealthy and very successful. I mean, not wealthy makes it sound like he came from it. He's very successful.
Well, he's just so business smart. Like,
he's
everyone
very
surrounding him is.
What's him and his brother are a fucking team. You know, and and his brother has his back wholeheartedly, and he wholeheartedly has his brother's back. I'm jealous in a way. I wish I had a brother. I wish my sisters were smarter. But you think because he's so successful, he doesn't have the same things. And he was talking about the Bieber roast, and he was like, "Yeah, I wanted to be on it, and Bieber wanted me to be on it, and Comedy Central said no." And I got my feelings hurt. I thought, it's so funny he didn't go to where I would have gone. I'm the biggest fucking act in the world.
They said no to him being on the Bieber roast?
And he was like, it really hurt my feelings. I thought, what do I need to do? Do I need to submit joke? Like I wrote jokes for it. I'll submit the jokes, and I went in my head the whole time he didn't go to where I thought he was going to go, which is, I'm bigger globally than you. I'm bigger than Comedy Central globally. Yeah. No one knows what the fuck you are. More people know me as comedy than they know. That's what I would have fucking said. That's what I would have been thumping to my chest like.
But here's the great thing about that whole thing. I mean, he could have just gone to Bieber and said, "Hey, tell him to put me on this roast."
Bieber
right?
did, and they said no because they're like, "Well, we got Snoop Lion." I don't know. The roasts. My buddy writes for the roast. The roasts are great. They really make me laugh. Obviously, I missed the days that Geraldo was on it and Patrice. Like I miss all the dead guys. And but they're still great. I'm sure they'll have great comics on.
Well, here's the thing too: is he's not only great, would probably be great at roasting Justin, but also like he could get roasted really well and take it and love it
really well.
Everybody does know who he is, which is kind of the silent burn in this country. I think where if I ask any friends in my hometown, "Do you know who Russell Peters is?" It's like, yeah. And they a lot of them know his first YouTube video that like really went viral. But I mean, also he's just known.
Yeah. I think I said to him, I go, what it is, Comedy Central doesn't have money invested in you. They don't have a deal with you. They don't have a, like, I know that I said, this is how I mean, I'm not shitting on Comedy Central. They're a great group of people who, oddly enough, the people that work there are in our inner circles, and we all hang out with them. And we trust them, and a lot of them were comics or worked at comedy agencies. But a long time ago, I submitted for a half hour forever. Never could get it. And at a point, you start going like, the fuck, man, I'm killing on the road.
Yeah.
And then I did this thing called Reality Bites Back for them, and it was okay. I mean, I don't think it did that great, but I did it. And then, like, one day I got offered an hour special and a half hour special in the same day. Two different sides of the camps. The people doing hours offered me one, and the people doing half hours offered me one. And then when they found out they had both offered me one, they were like, "Don't worry about it. You can do both." And I went, okay, they've never paid attention to me. Now they're making it rain.
Do you have enough material to do both? An hour and an hour and a half?
At the time? Yeah. At the time, I could do, one of them would have been really good.
The half hour.
And the hour probably, the half hour would have been fucking fantastic. So I would have focused more on the half hour.
Yeah.
I definitely would have focused more on the half hour. Just because that was where that's where my head was.
It's easy. That was what I got offered because I had like this big kind of flash in a pan in the beginning, and they offered me an hour, and everyone was like, "Yeah, take it." I didn't have an hour. I had, So, a couple months go by and they're like, we want to come out and see it. Because we're starting to set the date.
Yeah.
So they came to the Laugh Factory and I did a 45-minute set that just I unraveled in the middle of, and things weren't good. And I went upstairs afterwards and my manager was up there and he was like, oh, buddy, come on. Why'd you fold like that? And then I go over to the Comedy Central people and they were like, what do you think about doing a half hour? And I was like, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh.
It's like when a girl,
Thank
you hook
you.
up with a girl, she's like, I just feel like giving you a blowjob. You're like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, that
None of the
sounds
pressure of
great.
failure, just me.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. That really does take a lot of pressure off.
Oh God,
Mm-hmm.
I'm fucking. I think I was. You did have like a very big. It's so funny. I was like like silently. I was. I mean, I'm sure you probably knew it a little bit. There's people I did not talk to.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I definitely was like when you started blowing up. I was like, fuck yeah. And then you started like literally doing stuff. I was like, oh, I always wanted to do that too. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
how did he just lap me so quickly?
And that's when you get like really powerful agents and managers that can just make stuff happen even if you're not ready for it. And then you get in that seat and you're like, and I'm really glad for those opportunities because now looking back, and I wasn't like not prepared to do some of the stuff I did, but I think I probably got a show like a pilot or something where it was like, there's probably better actors out there that could have gotten to do this, but people kind of jam me in.
Yeah, but I feel like I was that guy. I was a flash in the pan, hardcore when I started.
Mm-hmm.
I had a development deal 6 months into doing stand up with Will Smith, and was back bi-coastal for the first probably 3 years of my career.
Wow.
And then I had a TV show, and then I had a deal with Will Smith, deal with CBS the next year, and then a TV show that lasted a year and a half, and then another TV show right after that. However, my wife gets pregnant, and the second she does, everything fucking disappears.
It's crazy.
And I toured. I had $500,000 in the bank.
It's usually the opposite.
Yeah.
It's usually that you get the baby and then everything just that's what happened to me actually. I mean, not like it wasn't like I wasn't doing well, but the real money came in once we were having a baby. It was
really?
Like, oh shit. Yeah.
Well, did you get more focused?
Yeah, but also I had more of a purpose. I think also it just made me a better performer and everything. It just made me better.
No, what was the I know that for me when I had George, I had this joke about getting pulled over by the cops where cops hate when you touch their faces, and they come to a door and I go shh and then take off. And I was like, as soon as I had Georgia, I was working with Louis C.K. and I had never felt more like a liar. Like I felt like a guy who just was making up stuff that not like I felt more in the mix of mediocre comics. Once I had Georgia, I went fuck, like there's real shit out there. There's like real life. Like so, a lot of these people hear it and it's light and it's fun, but I watched Louis C.K. who had been one of these mediocre, middle of the road absurdists and write the joke that everyone else could write but try to write it better. And then I watched him that first week and it was the incarnation of what we now know Louis C.K. to be.
Yeah, and he was just turning over. And
he was turning the corner. And I remember him going, my daughters are assholes. And I remember people being like, what? How can he? And one guy, I was sitting at the bar and one guy's like, that I do not care for his attitude about his kids. And I was like, what the fuck?
And he was just fleshing it out that point, probably.
But he was turning the corner. And I remember going, oh, I need to write about like something real.
Yeah.
And so I wrote about, I think the first thing I wrote about with Georgia was and it did not work. And now oddly enough, I can slide it in now and it works. But right when you get them and you think they're just going to die in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
And you just stare at them. And I was like, I don't know if I'm enjoying it because I had panic at night. I mean, I remember lifting.
I am going through that.
Really?
Still, I have, because I told you our dog passed away this last year, and that was tragic. And that was kind of like now everything. I never worry. I used to have like no worries at all, and then now there's just too many worries about, just everything. Like last night, he woke up at 2. Rocking him till 4 a.m. because he's growing and he has teeth coming in, and it's just like the whole time I'm like, God, I hope this is just teeth and growing and it's not like dying.
Has he gotten sick yet?
Yeah.
Like how sick?
He had the stomach flu a couple weeks ago where we went into his room and there was vomit all over his crib and all over him, and he was just sitting there like, what the fuck just happened?
I think I'm possessed.
What the fuck is this?
He just vomit everywhere. Like,
Oh. God. And I'm not a good vomit guy. I don't do well with vomit.
I don't do. I've never once seen my kids throw up because I'll throw up.
Yeah, no. And have you ever heard somebody say, "I'm not a bad vomit guy"?
Yeah,
I'm a pretty good vomit guy actually.
I'm a horrible.
I'm
vomit
not good
guy.
vomiting.
I'm not good at vomiting. I vomited. So I came back off of the road, and I think sometimes I think I might be a little bipolar. And so I had a really hot day where I was firing hot and I was loving it, and I'm a few cocktails in the morning and get on the plane, fucking come home, and I'm not feeling so hot. Go out to dinner with my wife and her father, and I come back and I'm sick, and I had a robe on. I sat on the toilet, sat on the robe, shat in the robe, and then threw up and I'm 42. My wife walked in like a fucking soldier and was like, "Don't worry, it's okay. Get it out. And I'm just throwing up on the floor, on the walls. I'm shitting in a robe, and my wife's just like, "It's okay." She's like, "All right," and then just wraps it up. Go get in the shower. It's gonna be fine. Get in the shower. Keep throwing up. But that's my wife. My wife is like, she was meant to be a mom and deal with throw up. I cannot.
Yeah, my wife can do that too.
I am not that
I didn't
guy.
see him throw up once. I helped clean that one up, and then the rest of the day, the 4 other times, she just kind of... I had meetings.
I just got an audition.
Whoa, in 1 hour?
Ooh, my phone's blowing up. Hey, good news is I booked one of these. We don't have to worry about this house,
Yeah.
I feel like I was...
God.
I'm not... I was not ready for the vulnerability of being a father. I was not ready for that. I was cool with the idea of being a dad and hanging out with other dads and grilling out.
Yeah.
And like beers in the backyard and playing softball in the front yard. Hugs, jumping on the couch, getting in bed Sunday morning, the whole family in bed with the dogs and the cat. I love all that shit. Teaching them how to ride bikes. That's the only thing I've ever really done as a parent. Honestly. I mean, like...
Everything else she handles.
Oh, yeah. I taught him how to hit a softball. I taught him how to catch a softball, throw a softball. I taught him how to... their tennis coach teaching him tennis. But I taught them both how to ride bikes. And swim. I taught them both how to swim and both how to ride bikes.
How old were they when you taught them how to swim?
George was probably... I would say maybe 4. Isla was around, and Isla was probably 4.
Because I'm looking into swim lessons right now for him. But just to get him in a pool, teach him, like, water's great. You love water.
It's the best thing.
I've taken him in a few pools, but...
We took Georgia to swim lessons probably at that age. Probably around, I'm going to say Georgia was maybe 3. Georgia might have been 6 when she learned how to swim. 6 or 5. She might have been older. But we took Georgia to a swim teacher, and she just wouldn't fucking do it. She did not want to do it, and she would not do it. And the guy was like, "It's a waste of your time and my time. She's not going to do it." And he's like, just keep her away from water.
Like, fuck you, pal.
But then I taught Georgia how to swim, and I taught Isla how to swim. I taught him how to ride the bikes. That is the one thing I've done as a parent that I can say wholeheartedly, I'm the proudest days of my life.
Yeah.
Easily proudest days of my life when you sit back and you're like, I remember where I taught Isla. I taught Isla. Isla's my lunatic kid. I taught Isla in front of this house on the street. She was like, "I'm ready to ride a 2-wheeler." And I go, "Okay." She's like, "I'm ready." So we take the wheels off her bike and I get behind her and I hold her by the back and I just kind of jog with her. I had plantar fasciitis at the time and it was really hurt to run. But I'm running with her and then I just kind of like let her go a little bit and then hold on to her. And she goes, and then I let go, and she just keeps going. I go, "You're doing it. And then I go, "Keep pedaling." And she just pedaled fast as fuck, blew through a stop sign. I'm like, "Stop, Isla, stop." She would not stop. By the way, I think this is on Vine. This is how long ago this was. So then I go, "That's awesome." So I go, "Let's go back." So we go back, and she fucking runs into a car. She runs into a fucking BMW, up over the handlebars, onto the fucking thing. But then Isla's like, "I can do it again." So she did it again, and then I taught Georgia over at the park.
See, the falling, that's what's going to scare the shit out of me. Here's a big thing I did yesterday was I took him to a park, and he said doggy, because he's 16 months, so he's saying words and stuff, but he's never really responded to me asking him a question.
Yeah.
And so I just said, "Are you a doggy?" And he just said, "No." And I was like, that's amazing. We just had a conversation. Our first conversation.
One of my favorite things to do to kids is, I love this more than anything, especially at that age. And then we say this because there were a bunch of kids in our neighborhood at the time that were around that age, around George's age, is to drive down the street when you see them walking down the street with their parents and recognize them. And go, "Kaylin?" And then watch her go, "What the fuck?" Like, I do it to dogs and kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait. That's why I want to get a dog too, because I feel like kids and dogs are pretty fun to watch.
It is. Have you listened to Al Madrigal's joke about sand toys?
No.
Okay, now that you have a kid, by the way, it's my favorite. It's my favorite father joke ever.
I love about his parent stuff is really good.
His parent stuff is fucking spot on.
Yeah.
I don't understand how he does as much as he does, because he writes all this great material. He works on like 3 TV shows. He's got all things comedy. He does his podcast. He fucking works around his house, and he's a great dad.
Yeah.
And his wife's hot as fuck.
Have you been to their house?
No,
He just got a new house. It is ridiculous.
Oh, good. I'm glad. He tried to get me buy the house across the street from him. And I was like,
no, he was telling me about it too. He kept saying like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Where do you think I am?
Where are they living now?
In Pasadena.
He's a great guy. I fucking love Al.
Yeah.
No, wait, did you so he's 16 months old. Are you guys going to like Mommy and Me classes or anything?
Yeah, Mommy and Me, I take him to my gym.
Yeah.
Which is like this gymnastics, and they just play with balls and
How
shit.
old are you?
35.
Yeah, that's right. That's probably where I was. Yeah. Oh, it's such a great time,
Yeah, it's so fun. And I'm a hands-on dad. Like, I do like to be involved, and I feed him dinner, and I don't get up exactly when he gets up. I'm about a half hour behind him, but I think it's that
Hey,
thing.
did you make the coffee?
Yeah, no. That's the thing though. My wife got for my birthday this coffee making that's like pour over coffee. You ever had pour over coffee? And it's this really long way of making coffee, and now she's angry about it because I wake up a half hour later and come out, and then I have a 20-minute process to make 1 cup of coffee. And she'll be like, "Oh, are you grumpy making coffee?" And I'm like, "Yeah." The fuck, I'm grumpy making this coffee because it takes 20 minutes and it's what you gave me. There's no other way to make coffee in our house.
Wait, what? Wait.
Because we had the Keurig and she threw it out. I come home one day and it's in the garbage. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like,
cancer.
There's bad plastic in it. I'm like, oh,
I just had a Keurig
God.
today. You're having a Keurig right now.
Yeah, I'll drink a Keurig. I don't care.
I've been drinking those. That's all Leanne makes. We used to make Potts coffee, but then I'd get like fucking tweaker crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'll drink coffee until I'm sick.
Well, this coffee that I make in the morning is like the strongest way to make it, really.
Russell Peters has cold brewed coffee.
Oh, yeah. That'll give you a major anxiety attack.
I had to take a Xanax last night. I'm not even fucking around.
I had to take a Xanax.
Literally was talking. I was like, you know what? I feel like gravity might stop existing and I might fly into the atmosphere and my hands are sweating. I think I'm going to fucking take a Xanax. I love Xanax.
I had to give it up. Here's when I gave it up. I was on a flight, and this isn't me trying to be like, I'm a really good guy here, but so I'm on a flight that was pretty empty, and I was sitting on my own row, and there was a guy behind me sitting in a row, and I'm sitting there, and I just hear, hey, and I turn around and he goes, you want a Xanax? And I was like, yeah. He's like, come sit next to me. I'm like, all right. So I go back. And sit next to this guy, and there's a middle seat and him, and on the window, and I'm sitting. I take the Xanax, and I'm like, so what's your story? He's like, dude, I'm just really fucking nervous, and I wouldn't mind just like if we don't have to talk, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I have major PTSD. I'm just back from the war, and I'm going to see my daughter for the first time.
Really?
Yeah, going to see my daughter for the first time that he hasn't seen since she was born, and his girlfriend at the time has already left him, and she's now with another guy. And he's coming from Walter Reed, and he's going to see his daughter for the first time in Montana, and we've got a layover in Denver. And so we get there, and me and this guy are on Xanax. We've had some cocktails. We get in the Denver airport. You know, there used to be bars you could smoke in the Denver airport.
Yeah.
Let's go have a cigarette. So we go up to have a cigarette and have another drink in this bar, and he's sitting there, and he's talking about one of his injuries was like an eye injury, and he's really sensitive to brightness, and he'd lost his sunglasses. And we're sitting there, and I'm like, I've got a pair of like Ray-Bans, and I'm like, all right. So I got to go catch my flight, and I was like, hey man, take these sunglasses and like, just good luck, And I walk away, and I call my wife as I'm walking, and I'm bawling walking through the Denver airport, crying. And after all this stuff, she goes, you gave away your sunglasses? And I was like, yeah, I gave them away. And she goes, have you maybe taken any Xanax or been drinking? I was like, yeah, a lot of them. And she's like, okay, no more Xanax. You can't start giving your clothes away to people.
Take my sunglasses, man. You're like Mean Joe Green.
But I mean, the story was so hard. I mean, but I just get emotional. I can cry on a dime when I'm on a pill or something.
Dude, I think I wonder if that was
Adderall.
I still cry on planes a lot. I cry on planes. Oh
yeah, they do. Yeah, I cried during fucking Blindside. What's that movie with
Blindside? Yeah, I didn't cry at Blindside. I was too cynical.
Well, have you seen it on a flight?
Yeah, I don't know why planes do that to me. I will go through the short list of things that have made me cry on planes. Walking Tall with The Rock. That's probably my most embarrassing one.
Well, he'll have those sentimental moments in his movie. You know?
I've cried a lot lately. I cried at Time Traveler's Wife. Every time makes me cry. Every time, and then especially now that you see it, if you see it now as a father.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's basically our story as comics as we go and we're gone, and our wife has to deal with life as by herself, and then you have kids, and one day you die.
Is she good though? She good about you traveling?
She's amazing. I actually don't think she likes me being home. Like, it's so interesting. I'm sure I've told this at some point, but we get along better when I'm on the road on the phone. We have really great conversations. And one time, and when I'm here, I drive her fucking nuts. It's like, I don't know if you saw all my gear is for the trip is all laid out there. Yeah. And she had just cleaned the backyard, like the table off. And then I see it clean, so I flip the fucking bag out, scuba gear, climbing gear, rodeo boots. Like,
you're traveling with all this stuff?
I travel with 3 fucking bags. I have to bring my own gear to do a lot of the stuff we do. And so when you travel with scuba gear, you got fins. Fucking my mask is broke, so now I got to go get a new mask. It's like, and I bring all my own climbing gear because I want my own climbing gear. I don't want to borrow someone's fucking rig. But I drive her nuts. So one time we were fighting in the morning, and I was like, I'm fucking out. I went to Barry's boot camp, worked out. I'm coming home. I call her, and I was like, hey. She goes, hey, babe, what's up? I was like, oh, this is odd. She's like, I was like, nothing. What are you doing? She's like, nothing. Where are you at? I said, I'm crossing Laurel Canyon. She goes, what? I said, I'm coming over Laurel Canyon. She went, oh, that's right, you're home. And just hung up. And I was like, she thought I was on the road and was just like, hey, babe, what's up? And I was like,
oh, God.
So, yeah, but she is.
That's great.
She's a introvert, so she likes being alone. She was an only child.
My wife doesn't. Do you have family here?
My 2 sisters.
Oh, so that's nice. They'd probably come over when you're out of town.
My
help
sister,
out at all.
one of my sisters comes over once a week, but my sisters are always there for my wife if they need her. So my wife can drop the girls off, and my daughters love my sisters, and so and my wife's got a nice tight knit group of friends over here.
That's one thing that family would be nice, but my wife, like, I have to prove to her why I need to leave sometimes, which gets a little frustrating.
Yeah,
and like even doing South by Southwest this week, she's like, "How much are you getting paid?" I'm like, It's about being on South by Southwest. Like, that is an accomplishment. Like, it means something to be a part of a festival like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, she doesn't see. All she sees is, okay.
I've seen money come in for this other stuff that's a lot bigger than you being gone for 5 days. I'm like,
but part of it is like tonight, I had a gig at. I hope Red Band hears this, or I hope someone tells Red Band about this. I had to text him and tell him. But I couldn't tell him and everything in the text. So I was supposed to do the Death Squad Secret Show for Red Band. Me, Joey Diaz, Hari. I wanted to do it. I really wanted to do it. At the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
Oh, and then and this morning everything starts falling apart. And the girls, I tell the girls I'm working tonight, and Georgia starts crying, and I'm like, and she's like, why? Well, just stay home. Just stay home. Don't work. You're always working. And then I'm like. And then I got to get a fucking new hard drive for my thing because all these videos that I'm shooting for the podcast have overwhelmed what was my backup disc, and I need to get a new scuba mask. I just went out and bought a cowboy hat because we're running cattle, and so like I'm overwhelmed. And Leanne's like, and I need to get a haircut. And Leanne's like, you can't do the show. Call Brian, say you can't do the fucking show. And she's like, I can't. You need to be here for the girls. You're only home to don't do stand up. Do stand up. You're going on the road in Seattle. Do stand up there.
Where in Seattle?
I don't know. Helium maybe. Parlor Live.
Portland. Yeah, Parlor Live.
And so I like texted Red Band. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't make the show. Yeah, I knew this. What's that?
Sometimes parents can pull that though. Like that's been my best excuse for canceling shit right now.
Yeah. If I go, and here's the reason my wife's saying is, if I go, I'll leave here around 8 o'clock, 7:30. The girls will still be up. The girls, if I stay, we'll go out to dinner tonight, and we'll stay out until 9 because it's my last night, and we'll stay out till 9, and we'll come home. We'll fuck around in the house, and the girls will stay up late. But if I go, I'll get fucking hammered. I know I will. I'll get get lit. I'll take a car service over, a car service back, and my wife will just and then I won't wake up to say goodbye to the girls tomorrow. I'll just be like in a piece of shit mood.
That's
my flight leaves at 6.
Oh, 6 a.m.?
No, my car picks me up at 6.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's the thing, too, is I had a car service take me to a show there, and he's like, why don't you just drive? I'm like, well, because I'm probably having a few drinks. Really? Yeah. You're going to do that? Just, and I'm like, I'm probably not going to get wasted, but I just don't want to risk anything. But then it's just like, all right, I'll drive. Maybe you'll see me tonight.
Maybe I'll call you in from jail. Like that's why I say to my wife, I go, I'm taking a car service. She goes, it's why? Just drive. And I go, because I may have a few beers. And here's the thing. If I have 2 beers, maybe I'll have 3. If I have 3 beers, I don't know if I'm okay to drive. I don't know. And I don't want to put anyone's life in jeopardy. I go, why don't you just, she's like, call Joey. Go with Joey. I go, if I go with Joey, I'm getting fucking blasted. Yeah. Like, I'm going to come back a different guy.
At a different time.
Yeah, and I don't know when I'm coming back. Joey's the kind of guy who's like, hey, let's go find a dog and walk it. You know? So yeah, it's interesting. Because my wife's the same way. Like, I'll do.
Find a dog and walk it.
He called me one time and he goes, come on, man, let's go find a dog and walk it. Burn a bone. And I was like, okay. So, yeah, it's interesting. Our line of work is hard to explain. Because I can hear what your wife says. You were more into music when you first started, correct?
Yeah.
You were in bands growing up.
I was like in a cover band in Seattle, and I had a band with another guy that never, did anything.
What kind of music?
Kind of folky, like folky with a mix of like, not Dave Matthews band, but like that at that time in my life when I'm 17, Dave Matthews was fucking killing it.
Yeah.
But I. Just trying to like make something. And then I remember I heard Neil Young and I was like, because I got into music kind of late. My parents brought me up on like Manhattan Transfer. You know what that is? It's like, like a 6-group singing group, like just like Boston, like just bad music.
Oh, yeah,
like Whitney Houston and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I heard Dave Matthews and I was like learning guitar and I was like, oh my God, this guy's like a singer-songwriter. And so then we started to write music. And then I heard Neil Young and I was like, oh, this is the guy that is the singer-songwriter, and Dave Matthews is like a jam. And I like slowly progressed into what was the beginning of this kind of music, I guess, So I was trying to make that kind of stuff, like Neil Young, whatever.
Yeah.
Eventually, but then I realized I'm not a good singer. And I need to be the front person of whatever I'm in. That's why I'm doing this, for the fucking fame.
You're talking to a front man right now. I didn't get arrested, but I got put in the back of a cop car in college. A very long story. My buddy kidnapped my dog, and I said I was gonna fucking kill him. And I was on the phone with my dad at the time. My dad had called when I found out it was kidnapped. My dad called the cops on me. Called the cops. He said, "My name's Al Kreischer. My son lives here. He is extremely upset, and his friend has kidnapped his dog. Go and arrest my son. Put him in the back of a cop car so that nothing happens." So the cops showed up, and they were like, "Calm down. It's gonna be okay. Why don't we sit in the car and talk about it?" And so they put me. I didn't even think about it. When you get in the back of a cop car, you can't just open the door. I was like, "Hey, wait, what the fuck? You guys are dicks." And so, but I remember they said to me as they were kind of like, do the calm down statement. What do you do for a living? I said, I'm a front man. And they went, excuse me? And I was like, oh, I'm a student, but I'm a front man of a band. And they're like, what's the name of your band? I was like, Giving Out Spankins. They were like, it was a horrible band.
Giving Out Spankins.
Giving Out Spankins.
Kind of music?
Well, quite honestly, and I'm sure you debate anyone in the band that would debate this. I was trying to do what Limp Bizkit ended up doing. I wanted to do mashups of hip hop because I was obsessed with hip hop growing up. But I was also obsessed with Nirvana, and these group of guys introduced me to Nine Inch Nails, to Ministry, to I was already a big Jane's Addiction. They introduced me to Nirvana. Honestly, I didn't really care much for Nirvana. I didn't know that they were as important as they were.
Yeah,
and John Dacre was like, no, you gotta listen to the lyrics. You gotta listen to the music. And right at that time, they had done their acoustic album, the one they're unplugged.
Yeah, they're unplugged.
And I heard they're unplugged, and I was like, wow. And he goes, whoa. And then John Dacre's responsible for all this. If you guys want to know who John Dacre is, he is the guy who wrote the intro music for this podcast. He wrote that for me.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and so he
I was just listening to Shane Moss.
He is so fucking funny.
Yeah.
I love that guy. And so John Dacre said, you want to really get into Nirvana? And he's like, he played On a Plane. He showed me how to play it on acoustic guitar, and then he plugged in the electric guitar, and he goes, now play it on an electric guitar. And so I was like addicted. Yeah. I was addicted. I was like, oh, fuck. Nirvana, when you play it on an electric guitar, when I learned how to play all their songs, I was like, you feel like a rock star.
Do you still play guitar a lot?
Yeah. Not good, though. Like, I can, Like, I end up fucking around. Just like, I end up just playing like old Blind Melon songs. Like, I was obsessed with Blind Melon.
Yeah.
There was a period in college where all I would do was play Blind Melon, smoke weed, and watch snowboarding videos.
Yeah. I was a big ski video guy.
Really?
Yeah, growing up, like Greg Stump Films. Do you ever know who that was? Like this guy Glenn Plake, who's the skier with the mohawk.
Yeah.
He's like one of the famous skiers from like the '90s or whatever. Anyways, these were like cool, like kind of jackassy. I mean, just like really cool, like extreme sports stuff with funny kind of interludes.
Yeah. Did So wait, what were your bands like? Well,
because I was in Seattle, so there was the whole Seattle music scene.
Yeah.
I mean, when Kurt Cobain died, my school had a day off.
Really?
Yeah, where we could still go and see council or whatever. My junior high, because it was a big deal, you know.
You were in junior high?
Yeah.
Dude, I was in college. You want to know something crazy? It was the week after our spring break, and on spring break we were in Key West, and I jokingly said Kurt Cobain killed himself. And everyone's like, "Oh my God!" And we let it play, and with this group of 12 people that we were with, and then all of a sudden that night, someone found out. I was like, "You dick!" And the next week he killed himself, and two of the girls were there like, "Sure he did."
Yeah, that's who's that musician? The girl that died of drug overdose, the British chick, the
Amy Winehouse.
Yes, I was at a festival in Dublin when she died, and everybody was laughing like it's a joke because I guess the rumor had circulated once before too.
Really?
And it circulates always at festivals, like where did you hear? Like it just kind of goes around these music or whatever. Yeah,
that's almost like that would be a fun documentary if you just passed around a GoPro and you heard people tell people, and it just went from people to people to people, and then all of a sudden, some Noel Gallagher's like, "I'd like to take a minute." So wait, so what? So who were you like?
Well, I mean, I like Nirvana, but I think I was a little too young. Like kids in my school were into it, but those were like the grunge kids, and those kids were like, everybody liked them, but there were people that were like obsessed.
Yeah,
I never got to see them live or anything. It's too young. But yeah, I mean, it was really like I said, like it started with Dave Matthews just because I was playing guitar and he was so big at the time that it was like,
can you play Dave Matthews songs?
Acoustics. I can still jam out some, yeah.
You can play a Dave Matthews song?
A few of them.
I'm pulling my guitar out in 2 seconds if you can play a Dave Matthews song.
Oh yeah, no, it's not a problem. I mean, I could play. They're all pretty close to each other. But he does play. He was unique at the way he played guitar, which was an interesting way to kind of learn in the beginning, because I never took lessons. I just kind of learned by learning songs or whatever.
Yeah.
First song I learned was "Proud Mary," because my parents listened to all old music, so like Creedence, all that stuff.
How old are your parents? Were they older? Much older?
No, they had me accidentally. I think they were about 30.
Yeah. Are you the only
they're
child?
60 something now. No, 4 kids, 4 siblings. Yeah.
So are you the oldest?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. So what do your other siblings do?
Teacher, cop. And someone's in school right now to be a high school counselor.
Teacher and cop?
Yeah.
Brothers cop?
Yeah.
Really?
They're twin brothers. And so my sister's a teacher 1 year younger than me, like Irish twins. And then, the twins are 5 years younger. And they couldn't be in different directions.
What kind of name? Like, because Thune's a cool name.
Thank you.
Like,
I remember when I was young, I thought it sucked. I was like,
really?
I wish I just had a regular, like Smith or anything. Just give me something normal. And still people can't pronounce it, which it just seems so obvious to me. Thune. It's like, if you were like Thune, Thun, you know how words work, right? Like it's so obvious.
It's like when people always put an N in my name, Kreischer, and I go, there is no N. Like I don't know where you're putting an N because it's not in there.
A lot of times people see a name like yours, and there's a lot going on in it. With the IE and the SH, SCH or whatever. So they'll kind of just add a letter because they don't want to get it wrong. And I do that a lot too, where I'm like, do you know who Kurt Braunohler is?
Yeah.
So up until maybe a couple weeks ago, I'd be like, Kurt Braunohler? Like, because I was just trying to guess how the last name goes and not go too far in either direction. I
did that with Brandon. God damn it! Now I'm doing this because I'm doing this. I had Brendan Schaub on my podcast.
Oh yeah,
a mixed martial artist.
But Brendan and Brandon
come in, and Brandon's a redneck name. Mm-hmm. In the South, you call them Brandons. They're Brandons. There's no Brendans.
But like, it's Brendan Walsh though, right? Brendan.
Brendan Walsh. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get those fucked up. When in college we get high, and our favorite thing to do was mispronounce someone's name just off by a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we'd be like, I can't remember who we used to do it to the most, but it was my buddy Blair did it to everyone. And it was so funny to watch people not call you on it.
Yeah,
and just be like.
That's the one direction that I used to also my bit in like the college time was like to introduce my friend Todd as Glenn, and then he'd be like, "My name's Todd to this new guy he's never met. And I'm like, this is his bit. It's Glenn. he does the Todd bit.
That would be a funny, by the way, that would be a funny show because before we were comedians, we had our bits to make our friends laugh.
Yeah.
Like mine was when you go to a concert, just yell, Jennifer! And like 30 girls would turn around and look. That's my age.
Yeah.
Everyone's named Jennifer. Mm-hmm. That was one.
I was a big putting my pubes on things guy. Because you know how easy it is to kind of just rip out a few pubes?
Yes, I do.
And then like in high school, like my buddy would go to the bathroom and he'd have a paper out and I'd just like load it with pubes and sit there. And
our big thing was put your dick between your legs, walk in the room and go, have you guys seen my dick? Yeah. That was a big one.
A lot of dick, the helicopter, the wristwatch. Hey, what time is it?
Yeah.
Just dick over arm.
Or I take my scrotum and I'd pull it out real taut and go, jump. I'm trying to think, because I mean, I literally was, obviously I was the life of the party. Mm-hmm. And so I had like a litany of bits. That's how I got in, was I was writing comedy songs. Like I'd write comedy songs at parties and play them on the guitar.
Yeah, that's how I started too, was writing a song for a class that I was in, actually.
Really?
It was just like a way of getting out of giving a speech. I was like, it'd be interesting if I gave a speech while I was playing guitar. And
really?
the teacher was like, I don't know. I'm like, just let me try it. And that's kind of how I started doing stand-up that way.
You don't bring the guitar on stage anymore?
I know. Well, this next hour I'm doing, I don't think I'm going to, yeah.
At all?
No, because it doesn't. This is a story of me turning 35 and having a kid, and I don't think there's any guitar in that.
Have you written you haven't written a great lullaby for your son?
Oh yeah. Oh no, I have. I've done a few, but I want it to stand alone as just like, because I guess for me doing guitar on my first 2 albums is like, they're great, and I like what I did. I'm not unhappy with it, but I like the challenge of, and I want some people, to be like, oh, he doesn't need that. It's,
I brought the guitar up. I've only brought the guitar up one time on stage. Mm-hmm. And that one time made me solidify that I will never do it again.
No?
And what happened was, it was that guitar. And you see that sticker on there? Should be a sticker on
right
the,
there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That sticker is indicative of that night. So I brought the guitar on stage, same guitar. It's the only guitar I've ever had. I have like a 12 string, and I have a travel guitar that I think's probably behind it. Mm-hmm. But like, I brought that guitar on stage. I placed it at the Boston Comedy Club over by the fireplace. I don't think it was a fireplace, but it looked like a fireplace. It was a mantle. I placed it on the wall, and I started to do stand up. And I was going to close with this song, but all anyone did was just stare at the guitar.
Oh yeah,
the whole time. And I went, and no one listened. And I bombed so hard for the first 5 minutes that by the time I got to the guitar, they thought I sucked. So when I played the song, and the song was this ballad about this guy who falls in love and has sex, but then you find out that it's a cheeseburger that he's fucking. It's not, well, maybe the song deserved
big turn. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was. I bombed so bad. My sister and my cousin Abe were with me, and they were like part of my bringers. And when we got into the cab to go back to my apartment, they were so uncomfortable being in there with me that they peeled that sticker off the back of the cab. They just both focused on that and would not speak to me. And I sat silent with a guitar in my lap, like just sitting there going, oh, fuck. And then when they got it all the way off, they're like, oh, no, what the fuck? So they put it on that guitar case. Every time I see that sticker, I think of that.
I'm surprised that this thing has stayed on.
Well, I don't travel with that guitar much.
Yeah,
so it's like pretty much it was on my flight out to L.A. and that's it. But so I stopped. I can understand that. I can understand being handicapped.
Or just wanting to just know for myself, like, I don't need that. And it's interesting because I was on my last tour, I was every now and again breaking it out on stage, but I had it on stage and I was doing shows without ever touching it. And I could tell that some people were like,
what's it out here for?
Yeah.
For
which
me
was
right
kind
now,
of a funny bit, I thought, and it also at the end to never touch.
Just to pick it up and then put it on the other side of the stage. My big thing now is, and obviously I don't need to hear anyone talk about this or reply or give me your insights. I appreciate that you guys like my shows, so whatever. But my big thing is, I got in this phase where I was ripping my shirt off when I got on stage. I ripped my shirt off, and then I'd have music bring me on stage. I rip my shirt off, pound a beer, and then
I see your Instagrams where it's a lot of after show shots where you're shirtless.
Well, what happened was I got to the point where I was like, well, it's pointless to put the fucking shirt back on because now anyone halfway through the show, they're like, take your shirt off again. So I just started doing shows shirtless. I've been doing shows shirtless now for probably a year.
A full show?
Full show just shirtless.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Well, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I got this huge compliment. I wish I could remember the comics. It would mean something. But he said, I'm giving you a heads up. I think it's pretty fucking spectacular that you're doing a show with your shirt off the entire time, because most people, if they rip their shirt off, they can't follow that. Like that's like that energy is so high, but you're following it. And I took this as such a fucking heartfelt compliment that I was like, fuck it. So I just do my show with my shirt off.
Do you get introduced, walked out shirtless?
Walk out with a shirt. I don't even know why the fuck I'm wearing it. Walk out with a shirt, get on stage. Usually I have something, because I do get depressed on the road, I have a song that will cheer me up. Like for a while it was Maxim Ludwig and the Santa Fe 7. For a long time it was Black Betty. Oh, Black Betty.
Yeah.
Bam-a-lam. That was a great song to come on stage too. It was Miley Cyrus for a little bit, and then Lady Gaga, and then for a long time it was Kesha's Die Young. That song just sent me through the roof. And last week in Columbus it was Joe Walsh's Rocky Mountain High.
And you let the whole song play?
I led probably a solid 2 minutes of it play, and I will talk over the song. I will find. It's a great way to get in the moment for me, because whatever thoughts that are organic in my head, I will speak over the song, so you don't really hear them laughing or not laughing. I'm just telling a secret usually about like on that one I was talking about that I like drinking by myself, and I like getting weird as fuck at night, and it's just and it's more like and I kill a drink, shirts off, cut the music, and then for me it's a great, I don't know, I just like it. I have fun. I have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I don't have the kind of body that it matters. Like people find it funny, and I sweat.
What about this? I was just, and you can edit this out if you want to use it. What if you walked on stage, the song, you just a regular come up, and as the song's ending, and like don't put a big thing into the song, just kind of let it fade out. But on stage, have a wardrobe rack with one hanger on it. Like literally, like you're coming home and you're taking your jacket off, but walk on stage.
Oh, that's a fucking genius!
And take your shirt off and hang it on the wardrobe rack.
Fucking genius!
And then go into your act.
Oh,
almost like never acknowledge it in a way of, I mean, obviously like laugh about it or whatever, but at first make it seem like all right, honey, I'm home.
Yeah.
Take it off, hang it up.
God, that's fucking good. I
Yeah.
gotta try that. I gotta try that.
Yeah, and you just have to say, I need something to hang a shirt. A wardrobe rack would be amazing.
Yeah.
Or like, anything. Or if they just had like a hat rack and you could just kind of drape it over the.
Oh, that would be.
But like a
great.
professional like hang up. Even if you had a jacket on and a shirt, like you could do it. You have a jacket over a shirt, and they're like, "Oh, he's gonna take his jacket off." Then, oh, there goes the shirt. Hang it up.
That's great.
Hey guys, I'm Bert. Thank you so much.
I get really cold. I always get cold if I'm nervous or whatever. And before I go on stage, I'm always nervous. I'm always a little heightened. I always get cold. So in Columbus, and it was cold in Columbus, I was wearing a fucking like a big feather puffy jacket, and I was going on stage in it. And they're like, "Why are you wearing that?" And I was like, "I'm gonna take it off anyway. I'm just wearing it because I'm cold right now." And then I go on stage and I'd sweat. But but and I say this like now I've been semi-handicapped by this one thing because to go up on stage organically and just leave your shirt on, no music, go up and tell a joke. It's so funny. It's so not what the road's about.
It's gotten for you into a place of it gets. I know what you mean, because mentally I'll have something and then I'll be like, I've got to get rid of it. Like I was going up actually and starting the show off with me walking on stage and saying, thank you guys so much for coming out. It means a lot. And it's like really quiet and somber. And I just want to say, like, I know it's important for you guys to be here. And I back up and I have the sound. I have all these cues and I put my head down like that, my hand, and then they dim the lights black. Yeah. And then they Drake started from the bottom, but it's a track that I've edited. You know that song?
Yeah, started from the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have it edited to where it starts out and it started from the bottom. Now I'm here and it's like whatever. And then the lyrics drop out because I like took out the lyrics and just music. And then it fades down. And then I go into the story about how I broke my arm in Tampa a year and a half ago. And it's like this like kind of like started from the bottom story, and I start comparing myself to Bo Jackson. And like all this stuff on the Bo Jackson of comedy, because I play guitar and tell jokes, and he played football and baseball. And then finally, I was shooting this documentary on a tour, and the guy's like, listen, I really want to capture that bit, but we're never going to be able to use it because of that song. Like, you can't expect to make this bit stronger with that as the backbone and then eventually want to use it on anything, because you'll never get permission for that song.
Yeah.
And so then finally it was like, just tonight, do it, no song. And I was like, there's no way. That's the whole bit. And he's
Yeah.
like, so I was like, and then the lighting cue's out. So I basically went back and just said, can't, because I send a thing every show. Here's the order. Because I don't like talking, like surprising them and going over the whole show or whatever.
Yeah.
And I did it, and it worked just as good. And it
Really?
was crazy because that audience didn't know that I'd been doing that anywhere else, you know, or
Yeah.
whatever. But it just worked. And that's
the
what I'm
audience
finding,
doesn't know
Yeah,
in
and
other
with the
places,
guitar.
but you know, and you're like, well, yeah.
Yeah, now, and I just did it. I sold it the same way, same passion that I was doing it with the music, and it worked the exact same way. But also the guitar. That was my whole thing, too.
Ooh, New York, that can't be good.
No, I'll leave
Fucking
that.
pass on that call. The
But yeah, with the guitar, now after a show, if I don't play guitar for a whole show, people come up to me and they say, what happened with the guitar?
I didn't take my show off for a Sunday show in wherever the fuck, whenever I did a week somewhere. It was not Columbus, but I didn't take my shirt off for the Sunday show because I was like, I didn't feel like drinking. I'm gonna fucking go home and get a good night's sleep. I have an early flight. I'm really tired. Didn't take my shirt off, and someone's like, dude, what's up with the fucking shirt? And I was like, what? And he's like, I mean, it's like your thing. I mean, like, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, fuck. It's like I didn't tell the Machine story. I don't know if you've ever heard my Machine story.
Yeah.
I didn't tell the Machine story one time in the last 3 fucking years. One time. And that time, Dave Stroop came out and he's like, I got some angry customers. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm just giving you a heads up. There's about 13 people upset. They drove in from fucking West Virginia and they want to hear this fucking Machine story. I was like, all right. I said, tell them to come out to the bar. So we went out to the bar and I told the story out there and they were like, all right, we're good. Thank you. I appreciate it. So it's interesting.
That's crazy.
It's, well,
No, it's, I mean,
Yeah.
it's great, but
it's crazy. You're totally right. It is crazy, but it's in a weird way. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it.
That's a funny thing too, like that, and that's the difference between sometimes certain comedy clubs or managers, where like a manager would be like, "Well, you saw the show you saw,
Yeah.
so
Well, Stroop's like that. He's like giving me the heads up.
yeah, giving you the heads up, and you want to please your customers in
Yeah.
a way, you know."
He's like,
And
they're going to be
sometimes
upset.
I'll take that the other way, where it makes me angry, and it's like, well, then tell them to stop fucking coming to see me because I'm gonna come out here and do what I want to do.
Oh, see, I'm broken.
That's why they like me.
I'm broken.
I hope.
I'm broken in that I need the acceptance.
Well,
I
no,
need
then
people
I'll
to
go
like
to my
me.
hotel that night and be like, why am I an asshole? Why didn't I just give them what they wanted?
Yeah,
you know, and then I'll go back and it's like,
exactly.
oh, it's my pride.
Yeah.
I couldn't humble myself to just be like, yeah, these people like me for this thing and give it to them. Why not?
Yeah. I feel like I have no intention in telling the story, but if at some point someone says the Machine, I go, all right, I'll tell it. And as soon as I say that, every time the fucking crowd goes crazy and I go, all right, okay, I get it. And I was like, hey, listen, I like making money. And if you guys like hearing that story and that's our trade, as long as you let me do whatever the fuck I want to do for the other 45 minutes of this show, and you have a good time and I hope that something resonates in that part, that it's great. But then, I don't know.
How long is that bit on the road?
15 minutes. So it's a 12 minute to 15 minute story.
Yeah.
And like, trust me.
And I've got those now too, 15, 20 minute stories where I did one of them on the Tonight Show in 5. And then I came and that was hard.
That's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
That's
But
really hard.
Here's what you realize as you start cutting babies, killing babies that you love, like in, the bit, it's like, oh yeah, that's great on the road to give people the full story, but to make it right for TV or make it right for whatever, it's like, and I'm struggling with that with this next album because my last album, they wanted me to cut, I have a 12-minute story at the end. It's a fake, false thing of me saving these firefighters' lives in a fire, and
I just don't want to hear that.
Comedy Central was like, you can't put a 12-minute track out. Like, it needs to be good for radio, and you got to do this, and we got to get. And I was like, well, everything else we can chop into small segments, but that has to stay there. And this is nothing. I'm not like talking shit about Comedy Central. It makes sense for the radio.
Yeah.
There needs to be these tracks. But for my next special, it's going to be broken into 4 sections, and I'm not going to break them.
Oh yeah.
And maybe Comedy Central won't want to
I'm
do that, but I got to figure that out.
I'm at a place where I feel like I don't want to do another hour special on tape. And I understand if I'm going to record one, I might as well put a camera up and videotape it, or tape it. But
Or you just want to do audio.
I like the audio. I like the albums. I like albums.
Yeah.
I loved albums.
You can make that both though. You can, might as well, that's kind of but that's, people also do get a little disappointed where my last hour special is my like vinyl.
Yeah.
And the one so what they saw on Netflix is what they can hear on the vinyl. Like, aren't they supposed to be different? Your album and your special. And it's like, I don't think so. I don't think, I hope not.
I want to do an hour special at the DC Improv, And what I want to do is I want to cut just the way I'd say I'm sure there's a period that this doesn't happen, but like when Dave Attell, once again, I don't know if Dave Attell did this, but this is what I'm assuming this is how it was done in the day. Mm-hmm. When Dave Attell did Skanks for the Memories, he did a weekend in fucking Denver. And he did his act 6 different times, and he took the best edits of those 6 bits and put them in 1 hour special.
Yeah.
Whatever the timing was, that it was perfect. I did that in Houston with my first special.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah. And so I want to do that in DC. I want to film 6 shows. I want to film 6 shows. I'll be shirtless. Continuity will be the same. Like, you can't tell it's different. All you see on me is jeans and boots.
Yeah.
So, like... And I want to do it in DC. I love the DC Improv. It's my favorite fucking club one of my favorite clubs in the country.
Here's what I found with that. So my first one in Denver actually was 5 shows that they taped, and I did 7 shows that weekend or something. And that was just audio, and there's no video.
Yeah.
And the second time I did it, my last special was just 2 shows in one night. And in the Denver 5 shows, which I don't know if you found in Houston, but there was one show that stood out as this is the show. Yeah. And then there were a couple small beats from other shows. I was like, well, this stroke was stronger in that one show, or this transition or whatever.
Yeah.
But it mostly was one show. Really in the end. And my Netflix special is mostly one show with a couple, and it drives me nuts because I have like my hair up, and then in one of them my hair is like got one little chunk that going down for half of it. And then I go like that and fix it. But you can see in the first like 15 minutes how there's like a couple spots where, whoop, boom.
That's so interesting. I find my big thing is if I wear gray undershirts, I'll sweat the gray different colors.
Sweat continuity.
That's why I'm getting rid of fucking shirts halfway.
So you sweat on stage a lot.
Yeah, I would say.
See, when I started, I sweat like through shirts. Hair is sopping wet.
Really?
Down my face, dripping off my chin. And then 2 years in, I just didn't sweat anymore.
Oh yeah, but I have a lot of like. Well, for me, it's always the opening fucking bit. Mm-hmm. It's the opening bit has so much energy.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever I'm saying. Sometimes I'll get off in a spin, like I'll get into it like a little spin out where it works, but I will find myself giving so much energy to it that it'll get my temperature up, and then all of a sudden I'll just be like, okay, I'm sweating, and I can feel it happening. But I'm like, oh, no one notices it yet. Oh, and then all of a sudden someone noticed, and then I'm in my head talking about sweating.
There is so many moments where when you're telling your thing through a microphone and you're in your head thinking about, it's not going good. This isn't, I've seen this go better, and that girl, and you're thinking about, and I can see that person's face lit up because they're fucking texting right now or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And then you get angry. I don't know. Yeah. That's when my shows go haywire, is these second thoughts.
Oh, I definitely have a lot of conversations in my head. Sometimes I'll tell myself jokes that they won't want to hear.
Yeah.
And I will start fucking cracking up.
Oh, God.
Everyone's like, say it. And I'm like, no. I always say, I know you better than you know yourself. Like, when it comes to comedy, you may know what you want for dinner, but when it comes to humor, I know what you want. I know what you want more than you do.
I actually remember the first time I saw you, which is I'm sure way before you ever knew who I was at the Improv, and it was, I think, like Henry Phillips or somebody was doing a show, and it went it went you, then Zach Galifianakis. And I think I came to see Zach Galifianakis because I had just seen his Kilborn. He was on Kilborn or whatever. That's a long time ago.
It's a very long time ago.
And you went up, and I was like, holy shit. Because, Zach was like, no, you went up before Zach, and you put out so much energy. And I remember just looking at Zach thinking nothing could, like, you were crushing.
Yeah.
And nothing could bother him. And he was sitting there, like, nervous to follow what you were doing because you were doing so much.
I love hearing that story. I've always thought guys like Zach and Mitch and yourself and Owen and, like, guys who own the stage, who own the moment. I always think you guys, like, honestly couldn't be less interested in what anyone's doing before you, because you think, well, the second I get there, it's me. They're going to be seeing me, and it changes it. I've always been like that myself.
If there's a road hack opening, here's my thing: is if it's a feature act that lives in fucking West, whatever beach, West Virginia Beach,
yeah,
and he's crushing, then I'm sitting back there like, oh, this isn't gonna. First of all, I shouldn't be in West fucking Virginia, West Beach, whatever the Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
Like, I had the worst weekend there of my life.
Virginia Beach?
Yeah.
The
Funny bone.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
The week before me was Carlos Mencia. The week after me was going to be Earthquake. And then somehow just Nick Thune's in the middle of that. Like, these people will care. And there's 6 bouncers that work every show, which most of the places I play have one door guy.
Yeah.
No one's concerned about, anything. And yeah, I was getting like, actually a guy stood up. This is the one moment where you're like, you've done 2 shows and it's going horribly. And the opener actually told me like, hey, I heard the bouncers saying how they don't like you and they're not stopping your hecklers. Like, they don't get what you're doing. No one got what I was doing there. And so
the bouncers don't like you and they're not stopping your hecklers.
No. And the head bouncer's name was House. That was his name. This huge dude, the head bouncer.
Yeah.
And so 10 minutes into a set, this guy, I'm already mentally, emotionally breaking down, trying to just give him a good show. Yeah. And a guy stands up in the fucking 4th, 5th row and goes, I've heard enough, and turns to walk out. And I was just like, sir, I want to do good. Please. Just anything. Why have you had enough? What have I done? And he then says a sentence, and it's one of those moments where this guy's obviously wasted and says these words that usually line up to equal meaning as a sentence. But he said words that never had met each other next to each other. Like, there was no meaning out of this sentence. Yeah. And the audience was just stifled. Like, whatever he just said was like, everyone's trying to think, what the fuck did that mean? And then some girl in the front row goes, hey, nice talking to the guy. The crowd erupted. Like, this girl, she should be the headliner. And the guy is now embarrassed. Everyone's laughing at him. He's standing up in the middle of the show, and he looks at her and he goes, are you fucking serious? And then her boyfriend stands up and goes, yeah, she's fucking serious. And then House comes over and takes the guy standing up out, starts to carry him out. The crowd's going nuts. And as they're getting towards the back door, and I'm on stage like, what is happening? Yeah. A guy in the back goes, fuck him. And the guy getting pulled out by House with his arms like pulled back like that goes, yeah, fuck him, thinking he's talking about me. And the guy goes, no, fuck you. Boom! And punches him in the... Like this guy in House had put together this scenario. And the guy hits the ground, and they still pull that guy out. The guy that punched him is cool. The crowd's having a party. And I'm just on stage like, thank you guys so much. Let's bring the middle act back out who just crushed with the hackiest,
Sir, what's so funny is that, and I not to stereotype people, but I've definitely done Virginia Beach, and it's not the kind of person. There aren't like those. Sometimes you will get crowds that there is not your type of person where you would say to someone, I'm trying really hard. Like, what do you like that vulnerability?
They didn't even like that. That showed weakness, which it was weak, but it was also like, I'm just a guy. I don't. I mean, but it's like military bases, and that just wasn't.
It's the birthplace.
Right club
it's
for
the
me.
Birthplace of slavery, I think.
Yeah.
Or not? Yeah. No, maybe I'm wrong. No, it's a birth. I'm sorry, I'm incorrect. Maybe I don't know if I'm right, but it's the birthplace of America. That's where all the ships were coming in.
Well, now it's the death of Nick Thune, the birthplace of. All that to say that I'm nervous following that guy who's probably, just he lives there and he's gonna crush, and it's all at a comedy club.
Inside references that are killing because
and it's hacky and So that makes me nervous. But following somebody that I admire, or if all of a sudden they're like, hey, Chris Rock's gonna come in, which I've done this before, and they're like, he's gonna do 15 minutes. It's like good.
Yeah.
Let him blow their mind and have them to a place of like they're not expecting anything out of me. Yeah. And then I'll have a great set,
Yeah, I think that I've definitely followed guys where you're just like what the fuck? Like you just sit there and you're like, why? What do they not see through this magic act? Mm-hmm. It's just fucking smoke and mirrors. He's talking about your baseball team.
Yeah.
Like no one else is going to talk about your baseball team.
No.
And I don't even think you guys even really pay attention to your baseball team. But the fact that it's yours and I've lost my mind. But I don't know. There's only one person, and I say, and I'm there's a lot of people I've been nervous to follow. There's only one person that I ever watched, and halfway through his set I went, I actually cannot follow him at all. And his name is I'm gonna fuck his name up, but you know the guy, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Charles Nelson Riley. Eric Nelson Charles.
Oh, Eric Charles Nielsen.
Eric Charles Nielsen. I followed him one time at the Improv, and I literally just went on stage and I was like, I was like, I talked about him the whole time. I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, that was fucking amazing.
Did he do good?
He destroyed.
Okay.
He destroyed.
I've seen him go. I mean, I think he's brilliant too, but I've seen him go both ways where the audience is
I
like,
wish he had gone the other way.
who is this guy screaming at us?
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
He murdered.
And that's what happens with bits like that, where you're in a thing, you're in a character, which that's why I'm moving into the story thing, because I don't like to hold up this persona.
I like to be into the moment of me. I remember when I first started, there were a bunch of guys, and someone said, so who are you going to be like? I remember, I'm not going to, I mean, I guess I can say it, but Dimitri Martin was like, who are you going to be like? Like, you got to pick a guy, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, he was really into Hedberg. He'd recite Hedberg jokes back to me, and he was into Hedberg. And in my head, I was like, he's like, you can be like Attell, you can be like Godfrey, like all these different guys. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, honestly, why can't I just be me? Because I am a little bit of these guys, but I'm also me.
Do you remember what year this was? Because I think that when somebody says that, that's when they're starting out. And I mean, I had a voice of probably 20 people when I started that were all my favorites.
Oh yeah, this was Dimitri had done stand up one time.
Yeah,
he'd done stand up one time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, these are now opinions that I'm sure he'd look back and go, I never said that. But I remember the conversation. I remember being on the subway and talking to him about it and being like, why can't I be a little bit of like Jordan Rubin and a little bit of Godfrey and a little bit of Attell? But Jordan was like, I remember Jordan just destroying.
Yeah,
he had my like some of my favorite jokes and being like, and a little bit of Jeff Ross and like a little bit of Louis C.K. Like, why can't I just be me? But I didn't know who I was, and so I didn't. And I can understand what he was saying is that you had needed to find a style. I mean, I remember distinctly looking at Attell and going, "Oh, that's how you write jokes. It's set up, surprise." Mm-hmm. And honestly, that joke I told earlier, you know what cops hate? When you touch their face. It's an Attell rhythm.
Oh yeah, and you picked that up. I mean, I'm sure that masturbation joke I was talking about was like it was in the voice of Stephen Wright or Mitch Hedberg or whatever, which were my biggest influences.
They were all our biggest influences. I tried to write a ton of jokes like that. Mm-hmm. I just don't look like that. Like, I don't look smart. So, like, I look like a guy who's going to pound a fucking beer and rip his shirt off. I don't look like a guy who's smart. I remember doing Lower East Side clubs, like Surf Reality, and writing surrealist, what I thought were surrealist. They were horrible jokes. I mean, like, fucking, you want to talk about bad, like, I thought I was writing, like, Hedberg jokes.
That's the thing, is you either have that or you don't. And people that are, when you see kids at open mics that are trying to do it, and it's like, you haven't.
Yeah.
You're not there yet, man. Yeah. You got to have a big twist there. There's got to be a delivery.
You got to be smart. Mm-hmm. You got to almost be fucking dialed into that subconscious.
You have to surprise these people, like, with a sentence, which is always. I'm sick of trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I feel like I'm good at analogies. That's it.
I have been and we were talking about having kids earlier when your first reaction. I remember the first joke I wrote about finding out we were going to have a kid, and I didn't do it on stage until later when I found the right spot. But the essential joke is, everybody says when they find out they're having a kid, I don't care if it's a boy or a girl, I want a healthy baby. And my first thought was I'd take an unhealthy boy. And that was like, oh yeah, I've still got it a little bit when it comes to writing with this stuff.
I take an unhealthy boy.
Yeah, I just really want I want a son.
I wanted a son so bad. You have no idea. Yeah.
Healthy or not, this is.
I was so bummed out when I found out we were having a girl. I remember they like, do you want to know what you're having? And I was like, I remember they were doing the wand, the wand with the condom on it in the. Mm-hmm. In the vagina, and
I did a thing on Conan about that whole experience because I had taken a test at a drugstore that said we were having a boy. I brought it home, my wife peed in it, and they say the joke I say is they say on the box it's a 50-50 shot, but instead we're having a boy, and I took it at its word. And we go to a doctor, and he does that whole thing, and he says you're having a girl, and I'm like, I don't think so. And I see a penis in the thing, I'm like, that's a dick. And the doctor looks at my wife and actually says, if he thinks that's a penis, I want to know who got you pregnant. Like, just tears me apart.
Yeah.
And then a month later, we go to another doctor, and he's like, yeah, it's a boy. And I'm
really?
like, that fucking dick. That guy made me question my dick knowledge for a month. And now I find out.
That's a penis. I'd like to see who got you pregnant.
Yeah. Oh, God. That's a crazy moment, though. And when I found out it was a girl, it was like, all right.
Yeah. They told me Georgia was a girl. What's interesting is that I used to do a bit about this, but it got overtaken by, I had a bit about the birth that overtook anything about the child thing. It was so much better of a story. Because it's all about, for me, it's all about the interactions you have with characters in the story. Mm-hmm. And the guy who delivered our baby was a Jamaican guy, Dr. Stephen Gray. Stephen Gray or Stephen Gregg. And his character, that whole thing was so much funnier. But when she said, the only joke I remember out of it was a story about the fucking wand and the condom, and they put it in, and my wife makes a noise I've never heard before, just like a fat kid falling as he eats an ice cream cone. Like I forget, I don't remember. Yeah. And then
I have, and that's the funny thing is that you think that you're breaking new ground, but for me, and I have the whole bit about, because he did start off on the stomach, and then he took it without mentioning anything and put it inside her vagina, and my joke is, and we're talking something roughly 3 times the size of my dick, and she's not even supposed to know that's possible, but insurance is covering it. Enjoy it. I'm not a fucking maniac.
It's better than
Just don't get used to it.
My tag for it was I had a look on my face, and the lady said, like jealous about this wand. Mm-hmm. And I said to her, I'd love to have a camera on the end of my dick. I go, I'd take a picture of you right now. But it'd be a lot of pictures of me just but yeah, it's so interesting when you do have that. I heard from Opie and Anthony like do a whole bit about the childbirth, probably very similar to mine. Mm-hmm. I had to turn it off because I was like, I don't want to hear him do anything. Yeah. Because God forbid, I was like, I don't want to know it. But everyone's like, Opie's childbirth bit, he did on the radio, you got to hear it. And I was like, I already did one on an hour special. I don't want to know it.
Yeah, no, you don't want to look back and think, I'm a fucking hack, or I'm this or that, or
it's where I got like I was like finally I'm gonna just start talking about these fucking fighting a bear. I have a joke about fighting a bear. I told it on Ari Shaffir's This Is Not Happening.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
And I was like, no one's gonna have this fucking bit ever. Mm-hmm. Well, you want to know who else fought a bear? TJ Miller.
Oh yeah,
fought the exact same fucking bear I did.
Oh yeah, for an audition.
As did Roddy Piper. Mm-hmm. Roddy Piper fought a bear, and his bear story arguably is better than mine. Oh, and he's Roddy Piper. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's so hard to get something original, and you're like, I don't even know. Like I have this robbing a train in the machine, and this girl comes up to me. She goes, "Yeah, my name is the Machine." I was like, oh, what the fuck?
What, she says what?
She goes, my nickname is the Machine.
Oh, God.
And I was like, and then it turns out, and then you start going like, there's movies coming out with the Machine. There's a movie out about the character's name, the Machine, and he's the party guy. And you're like, all right, fuck it. I'm done trying to keep up with my own originality. I'm just going to say whatever the fuck I say. And if you think I'm a fucking hack, then I'm whatever.
Well, also, you could go in timelines and be like this and that, but it's all been done. I mean, everything, every angle, every idea has been run through some filter that, I mean, it's just like Instagram. Everyone's going to take the same picture. They're just going to choose a different filter. That's the worst. Analogy. And I farted as I was saying that, actually. So people go back and look at that.
You don't seem like a guy that farts and smells it.
Oh, I'm a big farter.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Same point of contention at home, yeah.
Wait, let's do a game. I'll go back and forth, and I'll tell you. Say one thing about you that you don't think people know, and then I'll say one thing about me that I don't think people know. But I got to think because I'm trying to think. I feel like
Well, something came out recently with friends that I thought was funny, where we were talking about our dicks or something, or just dicks in general.
Yeah.
And I was talking about like getting my son circumcised, where I didn't really want to get him circumcised. I just wanted him to have the dick that he has, and my wife really wanted. And now she looks back and she goes, "I wish we didn't." And I go, and I didn't want to do it because I was circumcised. And my friend goes, "What? You're circumcised?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh my God." I've known the guy for 10 years. He goes, "I always just kind of thought you were uncircumcised." And I was like, "What?
Really?"
Yeah. And then I got disappointed. Like, oh, he probably thought that was like a cool thing about me.
Yeah.
And now I'm like a new guy to him.
Oh, if you were uncircumcised in our fraternity, it got called out, Mike Angelides, and you were called sock cock for the rest of your fucking life. Like there was like Mike Angelides is the only guy I've ever known that is uncircumcised.
Really? I
Ever.
know a lot of guys. As far as maybe I'm just thinking.
Really? You don't work at a crunch? I've very seldom. I've only seen uncircumcised guys in porn. up close.
Really?
Yeah, I never, even in Barry's boot camp, or not Barry's boot camp, Crunch, where I did work out all the time and always got in the steam room naked. Never saw dudes uncircumcised.
Really?
Never. Well, they were always hard.
You're not
so.
looking hard enough. Yeah, when they're hard, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I always wondered if my wife has ever been with someone that's been uncircumcised.
Oh yeah.
I asked her when like we've been married for a little while ago, have you ever been with a black guy? She was like, what? And I was like, never mind, don't answer. I don't want to know. She's like, would it matter? And I go, I don't know. It only doesn't matter if the answer is no.
Yeah, but now you're wondering, what was she about to say?
Yeah, and then she's like, are you serious? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is something I probably should not give a fuck about. But it's all about dick size. It has nothing to do with the color of the dude. It's just that I think black dudes have big dicks, and I'd hate to.
And they're better at fucking.
Yeah, and I'd hate to be the smallest dick my wife's been with. Like I'd like to be
somewhere in there.
Dude,
she chose it. She chose your dick.
Top two, you know. But there's guys, I know guys that have small dicks that are married, like real small dicks.
Oh, like how small?
Like if you saw it in a shower, you'd be like, wait, I don't see it.
Oh, like in?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Then I remember, and you just were like, like the fuck, and word would get out. Dudes would he's got the smallest dick you've ever fucking seen. Like not even like the kind you joke about. Like the kind like
that's so sad.
Like Howard Stern says he has a small dick, but you go, it's not that bad probably.
I'm sure, yeah.
But
if it was really small, you probably wouldn't mention it.
Yeah.
Because that's when an internal.
Yeah. I wish I had like a blood dick, like a blood cock. It's the ones that look big when they're soft.
Oh yeah.
I've got the opposite. I've got the grower, not the shower. What are you?
I think I'm right in the middle. You know, it just depends on if I'm cold. Yeah, I'm not a shower. That thing will suck right in. But I've always wanted to be like the guy that could be out in the snow, you know, pantless and just look like he has a big dick.
Ari's got a pretty big dick.
Oh well, and he likes to show it off. I've seen
yeah, he's taken it out on stage a bunch.
But you know, like penis size for me, I remember my parents were part of like this workout gym when I was young, and so I'd see dicks all the time, and like the Sonics started working out because you know up in Seattle, like they started doing summer workouts or whatever off-season workouts at this club. So like I'd see Sean Kemp's dick in the locker room, like, and that's not a realistic dick to look at, and think like, what's wrong? You know what I mean? Like, why don't I have a Sean Kemp dick here?
You saw Sean Kemp's dick?
Yeah.
I'd pay money to see Sean.
And I actually have that in that whole thing about like when the doctor says I don't know what dicks look like. I start telling my friends a story in the bit, and I'm just like, and at one point I'm screaming out, "I've seen Sean Kemp's dick, and it happened in a public restroom, and only one of us knows about it." But why wouldn't you look if Sean Kemp was naked anywhere by you?
I remember distinctly the day I realized that not all dicks were the same.
Oh.
Like freshman year, Jesuit high school, we all went. They made a shower, and I remember not thinking anything about it. But I'd never showered with boys before, and I was in 9th grade. And then
just a lot of girl showers.
Yeah, no. I went to school called Berkeley Prep. It was like predominantly Jewish, not really, but it was a lot of Jewish kids, and people would shower in bathing suits. And I was like, oh, that's
interesting.
I distinctly remember people showering in bathing suits, and I was like, oh, that's how you shower. So I would bring a bathing suit after football practice if I wanted to shower, and I put on a bathing suit, and everyone showered in bathing suits. No one showered naked, and so I went, that's interesting. That makes sense. So then we go to Berkeley or to Jesuit, and it's an all-boys Catholic high school, predominantly Cuban. And I mean, dudes are walking around the locker room naked, like walking around naked. And I remember seeing guys with a lot of pubic hair and big dicks, and I was intimidated.
Yeah, I thought I had to shower in 7th grade. They made us start to shower naked.
Yeah.
In junior high. And I remember seeing, and I didn't hit puberty till probably 9th grade.
Yeah.
So I had 2 years of feeling like I had a small dick. Like, this is what I have forever. And then in 9th grade, I was like, oh.
Thank God.
Oh, my God. I can't even.
Fucking buzzer. This was going to be.
Fucking buzzer.
This was going to be a long 4 years.
Yeah, it was going to be bad. You know, people were going to start talking. And
that first time, and I'm not super proud of this, but that first time I took a shower in that boys' locker room, that first day, I tried to work up a chub. Just to it represented. So I was like,
just to give a little blood into it.
I can't bring this in there. This does not, like, those guys had cocks. I had something you could show to a nurse.
Now, are you the kind of guy that can come before he goes on stage? Or do you like to hold your cum in and kind of use that energy?
No, I can definitely jerk off before I go on stage.
Yeah, but you don't feel like that affects you at all. Like, because some people are so against, like it's like some musicians go celibate or whatever, like, because they want to keep that in them for their performance or for whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really had that kind of self-control where I was like if I feel like jerking off, it's gonna happen. There's no like, well, maybe I'll hold on to it, because then I start going, what the fuck am I doing that for?
I don't want to hold on. I gotta get this out of me.
I need to exercise.
It's like having diarrhea inside you, where it's like, I'm gonna be a lot better if this isn't brewing in my stomach.
Exactly. Yeah, I've never really thought about it that way. I did go to first periods of time where I felt like porn was making me depressed.
Yeah,
it was like just creeping into me in a very unhealthy way.
I think that's a huge issue. Porn, just in general, and not, everyone knows about expectations and stuff, but it just takes your sex drive down. I think the more you watch porn, the more you're like less sexual, and then that's where the depression creeps in. Like, why am I not like some
Yeah.
Anytime that I've felt like, all right, I need to step back, and in fact, for a year, no porn.
You did a year?
I'm still in it.
Really?
And I love it. It's just way better, and you're never worried about like, when am I gonna, when am I going to watch porn next? Because it started to become that. Like when you're on the road, especially, and you're just in a hotel room in a city, and it's like, what are we doing here? I guess we're just going to jerk off a couple times today.
But not to point out Columbus, but I got into a place in Columbus where I just was like...
Not to call out Columbus and my jerking off there, but...
I mean, I feel bad everyone going to the Marriott, but I was in a place
where the walls were covered.
This is very... Ohio specific, but I knew I was in a funk. Like, so I'd been on the road for 3 weeks, and then I still had a full week, and I did a gig in West Virginia, like at a theater, and then I had to drive to Columbus, and I still had to do a full weekend in Columbus. And by the time I was in West Virginia, I was in a little bit of a hole emotionally and spiritually, and I just was like, I need to get the fuck out of this, and I know that the only way I can do that is with
my way out.
I need to jerk my way out of this. And I stopped at the Lion's Den and was like, I'm going to find some brand new thing I'm going to explore. Like, there's this thing I saw online. It looks like a manta ray hugging or a stingray hugging your dick. I was like, I'm going to get one of these. Couldn't find it. Of course, the Lion doesn't have the fucking top of the line material. And then all I could think is, and then there are couples in there, and I feel
What's a Lion's Den?
It's the name of this. It's this porn.
Oh.
It's basically this like adult. I don't know why they still call it bookstore, but adult bookstore. No,
you
books.
like you wanted to buy like one of those fuck machines or something.
I wanted to buy something. I wanted to just. I was like, I got to take my game to the next level for this weekend to get through this. And then I got too panicked and bought a bunch of shit I didn't bought a bunch of shit because there were couples in there and they were staring at me.
Vibrating rings.
My head, I'm like, does anyone recognize me from TV? Like, this is really bad. And so, and the woman made me uncomfortable. So, and then I go back to Columbus, and I just was watching porn, just like Googling it and Googling it and Googling it, and it was like I was just disconnected to life.
Yeah.
I was just like, click. And I was like, I'd just take a nap, and then I'd wake up, and I'd just be like, porn, and then click porn, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And then luckily, I started watching Sway, the hip-hop. He's got a show on XM. He's a really great interviewer.
No, so just getting. But that's the thing is, porn. It's like a drug. It's just an easy way to stop thinking about anything, and just
it's the same thing with Facebook though. I definitely go on Facebook. Yesterday I got really depressed because I saw the Suge Knight hit and run video.
I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, everyone's like, Suge's like, I'm glad that exonerates me. I'm like, huh.
He said that?
Yeah, he goes, that. I know everyone can see that I was just trying to get away. I was like,
no, dude, you purposely drove over dudes.
He ran like I didn't know. Like in the hit and run, I was like, how bad can this be? It's like,
yeah,
like they couldn't have used that in Meet Joe Black. Like they couldn't have used that fucking footage.
No,
they needed to show him. Ring, ring. That's what I thought it would be. But and then the one before that was like,
I love the Meet Joe Black reference, by the way.
But that was one of those movies, times in a moment where I went, what the fuck? Like, and then I saw this one. The video right before this was like, this a friend of mine who's black posted it. And he was like, tell me if this is a good dad or a bad dad. I know a lot of you say this is a bad dad, but this is a good dad. And I was like, oh, it's a parenting video. And I click it, and it's a dad who's got like a 40 in his hand, and his son got into a fight with this other kid, and he was making them fight in front of him. But anytime the other kid would win, he'd separate them. He'd go, no, we're having none of that. And it broke my heart. Like, it really made my heart sick.
Yeah. And
I went, oh my God, man, this poor kid. And this kid was getting the fuck beaten out of him, but his dad wouldn't let him stop. And I just was like, and then I saw Suge Knight, and I was like, I'm fucking done.
No, it's like watching news. It's like you live in Los Angeles and have a cool family with a cool room, and like the fact that you know, like you could just be hanging out right now doing and this is what I go through my mind. But I'm choosing to sit here and watch this stuff that makes me depressed. It's like I need to get off all of it, and I try, and now I'm trying to control my internet hours.
It's
like Facebook, how many times I check my phone. That was my thing this year. It's like, all right, porn, we're in a good spot. Now I've got to control like checking Twitter and Facebook, and because you know, like we'll put our kid to bed and we're both exhausted, and I'll like take a room view of what we're doing, and my wife and I are sitting on opposite ends of the couch just scrolling through our phone, and it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Let's like have a bottle of wine and just hang out on the deck.
Yeah.
Look at the view.
Yeah. Or just, it's like we're going to Costa Rica tomorrow, my wife and I, and I'm like, I want to just not bring my fucking phone at all.
Oh, she's going to go there with you?
Yeah, she's going to Costa Rica with me.
Oh, great.
And we're going to get to hang out, but then my wife's like, I want to go ziplining, I want to do this, I want to do that. And that's all the stuff I do for work. So part of me is like, I just want to sit by the pool and just talk. I haven't talked to you in fucking months, I feel like.
So you're going there for vacation?
I go for Costa Rica. It's a gig, but it's a gig. I have to do 1 day of work, but I just have to basically host a banquet.
Oh, okay.
And it's not that bad. And then I go, and then then I start the shoot. But so wait, what's your so where are your focuses like right now in life, like professionally, like where are you just focusing on stand up?
No, I'm developing stuff too, but right now I like pilot season just kind of went through, and this is the first year that I just did not try and write a show, develop with a network, or I didn't even audition for pilot. I just said I'm just interested in making my own thing, and I want to do it in a way that's not. I want to do like cable thing, not a network thing, because it just seems very difficult in the loops, and I've done it like 6 times where it's like exhausting, you know, just the whole process. You've been through it.
Yeah.
But my next special is the most real thing I've ever done. So I'm planning on taping that in November, and I've just got like some touring between now and then.
How often are you on the road?
I mean, I just did a 2-week thing, but I never do 2 weeks like that. But I'm doing rock clubs now.
Really?
And then in September and October, I'm going to do 6 clubs just to do like 5 shows back to back, you know, blah, blah, blah. But the rock club thing is my favorite new thing, because I go to a rock club. It might not be huge. I'm not like playing, you know, but everyone there is there to see me. It's no like accidental comedy fans that are just like, oh, let's go to a comedy club tonight, and they might not be into what I'm doing. So it's like everybody there is into what I'm doing for sure, and I've got a good opener, and it's just a different vibe. And so that's changed my stand-up too, in a way of like, stop trying. I'm not like bombing every now and again, which maybe is good for you. Still not all shows go great, but you know. It's
not good for you, but I'll tell you where I'm stuck out with the clubs, and I believe in the clubs in that I do think that we get, and I'll get you get the breakdowns of the numbers for the weekend, and I think I'm getting 50% of people that have seen me before, and then 50% who've never seen me. So then I kind of feel like the 50% who've seen me are enjoying it so much that those other 50% have to be involved.
Yeah.
They have to enjoy it. So I'm hoping to build a fan base that way. However, because like I do this call in sick to work tour where I go in, I drink on radio at like 8 a.m. till 10, and then I go right to the club at 11 and do a show at 11, and everyone calls in sick to work, and the club opens at 11, and everyone's at 11 a.m. and everyone's fucking hammered.
Really?
Yeah, it's fun as shit, but it's just my fans.
Then how do you even follow the rest of your day after that?
I get on a plane and fly home.
Wasted.
Yeah, I fly wasted all the time.
Oh, I had to stop.
You don't drink on planes?
No, I'll have a drink on a plane, but like I used to like drink at the airport and then get on the plane.
Me too.
But I would sometimes like, I don't know, I've got to a couple scary places on planes where it's like I don't feel good and I'm nervous and I start sweating. I'm like, I'm kind of drunk, and just anxiety.
Oh yeah. The booze cuts the anxiety out for me. So like I did DC. DC was probably I'd say DC is the first one I ever did. I call in to Elliot, who has the biggest morning show, probably arguably anywhere. His show is so fucking still like ingrained in DC that like there's very few places. Tampa's like that, Philly's like that, Preston Steve. And like, but Bob and Tom are like that, I guess, in certain markets. But like you do Elliot. I called in to say I was doing it, and the show sold out in 20 minutes. And so I was like, fuck. So I go and do Elliot, and then I get fucking hammered on radio, go in, do the show, drink continuously on stage, and then I got into a fucking car like an hour later, and I was on a plane, and I was home, and I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest fucking gig I've ever done. I took the red eye into DC. I was only in DC. I didn't even get a hotel room. I was only in DC for like
oh my God, you just flew back that
5 hours. I was in DC for 5 fucking hours.
And you liked that?
I loved it. I loved it.
So were you did you sleep on the red eye, or were you drinking on the red eye?
Drank on the red eye, passed out, woke up, like you would on any red eye, tired and hungover. But I rolled right into Elliot, started drinking.
Oh God, talk about a day. See, then how many days do you need to recover after that, though? Because that's something for me. Like, I just did a thing this weekend a festival in Michigan where everybody was drinking. And
what was the festival?
Gilda's Laugh Fest.
Laugh Fest. Was Billy Gardell there?
Yeah.
Yep. It was in Grand Rapids. Mm-hmm. I was in Grand Rapids the week before, and I saw posters all around for it.
God, I love Billy.
Yeah, Billy's the greatest.
He came to watch my show, actually, because I started opening for him. My first 5 feature gigs were him.
Really?
Yeah.
He's great.
He's amazing. He's
just
best. Just a great guy. And he taught me stuff on those shows that I still teach openers and utilize.
He's old school. Mm-hmm. I used to have to follow Billy when we did the Jameson tour, because he's like, hey man, you want to take your fucking shirt off? You want to go do that Yosemite Sam shit? Fine. I don't want to follow it. He's like, so I'll go first. I'll go before you. You go last. And there were times where the crowd was spinning wildly out of control, and I had no idea how to fucking follow it.
Yeah.
He's so fucking strong.
I'm glad to know that other people do that, because this last weekend with Brody Stevens, him and I were co-headlining the shows, and I was like, listen, man, the drumming, like just your energy, it's so big that how do you go back to just
regular
a guy?
Stand-up?
Yeah.
Well, Brody's so frenetic.
Yeah.
Is that the right? Like, I mean, you just and when he's doing well, not just with us loving him, but when he's doing well with the crowd and he's connected with the crowd. And I haven't seen Brody since he's kind of exploded. I saw him one time at UCB, and the crowd was with him, and he was on it, and he was firing so fucking hot that I went, oh, there's no following this.
Yeah.
Like, there is no, but there's been times where you've seen Brody where you're like, okay, I can definitely go up after this.
Yeah, no, and he was doing great though. So that's the thing, is that I made the right choice.
Yeah, I was,
and I never spoke with him about it. I told just the venue. I was like, listen, we got to make sure that he's doing this.
I will definitely. I've said to Ralphie before, I was like, I'm not going after you. I can't do it because Ralphie can do one of two things, and both are extremely overwhelming. He can either go long, but he just does an hour and a half of amazing comedy, or he can do which even is worse, is he goes tight and he just does an actual set. Yeah. And it's this bam, power, bam, 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 make a dollar, bam, and you're just like sitting there like, motherfucker.
Yeah, there's nothing
I can do after this. Like, it's been so well crafted and so tight, and it just is, and he hasn't moved, so it's not really high energy, but it is high energy that you don't know how to follow it. And I was just like, I told him every time, I was like, I got to go before you.
That was Dane Cook for me, in the sense that the Laugh Factory at one point in my beginning, Jamie just said, you can go at the end of every show. Like the late show, you can do the end. And so I would just show up, and I would get 7 to 10 minutes, and I wasn't even the spot where I was getting booked on the shows there. I was just taking the spot. Yeah. And Dane would come in unannounced and like close the show and do 2 hours. Yeah. And everyone there was so, like, they expected him to come, and it was never, but he was always there. And then I would have to follow that. And I remember getting really frustrated, like, why are you doing that? Like, what, and then finally one day he told me, he's like, that I used to have to follow Chris Rock at like the Cellar, and it was hard, but it made me who I am. And I just remember thinking, like, okay, good. Yeah. And it eventually did help me that he was doing that.
Yeah. I used to tour with Jay Moore, and there was a period of time where he would do an hour. He would have Tom Segura, a host, do like 5 minutes, and then he would do an hour, and then he would bring me up, and I would do the check spot. So I would not only follow a guy who's a national headliner and very famous and very talented, but then I would go last and have to close the show.
That's insane.
Yeah, but it made me a really great comic.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like there was a
headliner to do that.
Yeah, and so I got to a place where I was very comfortable doing it, and then and then I only did that for a little while.
How much time would you do?
30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's during a check spot too.
I mean, is that just based on his fear of like not being able to close a show?
No, I don't think he wanted to deal with the check spot. I mean, I know he didn't want to deal with check spot, but there were times where he was feeling it, and I would be there, and he just wouldn't bring me on at all. And
oh my God. So a whole show would happen, you wouldn't even do a set.
Yeah. And Tom and I would be in the back, and Tom's like, I don't think you're going on tonight. And so he just.
Oh, I would go insane.
Yeah. And so, yeah, well, it was towards the end of me touring with him, towards the end of it. And, I don't know. It made me a stronger comic. Yeah. At the same time, I was doing the Jameson tour, and so I was following Billy. So I was getting the check spot after Billy, and then the check spot after Jay.
And you guys are just drinking Jameson the whole time.
Oh, we were fucking blitzed.
I think Billy's sober now.
Billy's sober. Billy's been. I was there when Billy got sober. Like I was there the weekend he got sober, and I was like, and I remember that distinctly because I was like, oh, I'm definitely not. That's not happening with me.
Did he go to rehab or something, or just decide?
Just decided. It's like I'm done. I think he had stomach problems.
Yeah,
that's a really easy way to quit drinking is when you have health problems. Is when his stomach was. I don't want to speak for Billy. I don't like doing that for people, but I know Billy's a pretty open, honest guy. But I think he was having like real stomach problems, and he was like, he just was not feeling good.
Yeah,
and you were drinking the alcohol because you thought at the end of the day this would help it out, and it just wasn't helping anymore, and so he stopped. But yeah, a lot of people sobered up on that tour. Me and Steve Byrne haven't.
I had a tour where I did. This last tour, the 2-week tour, we got a brewery to sponsor it.
Oh.
And it's
Who's the brewery?
Oscar Blues. They're out of Denver, and they've got one in Asheville, North Carolina, which we stopped by. We did a show in Asheville, but
I'm going to Asheville in 2 weeks.
It's my favorite city.
Yeah, Oscar Blues. I got to stop by that brewery.
Yeah, it's a little out. It's like a half hour out of the town.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. I mean, and it's just I love Asheville's one of the coolest cities in America.
It's a pretty cool city.
Yeah. But I definitely have taken a beer break.
Have you smoked pot since you have a kid?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was my thing. Is I didn't know about like I ended up doing mushrooms one time after I had kids, and I was like, oh, that'll never happen again.
Yeah, I haven't done that. I don't think
that. Don't because what the first thought that goes to your mind is, oh fuck, man, I have a child that depends on the sanity of me.
And what if in that moment, I mean, if you're out of town, there's nothing you can do. But what if in that moment an emergency happens?
I was out of town, and that's the first thing I thought was, I can't. I realized very clearly in moments of panic. I've said this on stage, but I say this wholeheartedly about panics. I deal with it. The one cool thing about panic is you realize in an instant what you want and what you don't want.
Yeah.
It's so seldom in life do you are things that defined.
And the problem if it comes with drugs, there's no way to get exactly out of it at that moment.
But you realize
I got to ride this out.
You're like, I do not want to be doing this. I made a mistake, and I want this out of me.
I made a mistake. Oh.
And I thought, I can't. I remember feeling very sanely going, I can't get off the grid anymore. The last time I did this, I didn't have a cell phone. I haven't done this since I've had a cell phone, and now I can't get off the grid. You can, my phone can ring, and there could be a problem at home, and I need to be home tomorrow morning. I'm not in the place where I can fucking book a flight, and that's happened. Not me on drugs, but I was with Billy one time. Georgia, my oldest, broke her top jaw, and I got a phone call. We were getting ready to go on stage. I got a phone call saying you need to get on a plane tomorrow morning and come home, and I was sober, thankfully, and I was like done. I got the plane ticket. I changed the plane. I was like, here we go. And then I drank that night and drank all the way on the flight home. I was a fucking mess. I was crying nonstop. I had sunglasses on.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, your kid. Oh.
That's the thing, man, about parenthood, that you're not ready for those moments where shit gets super real. And you're like, I remember Georgia got some really bad flu. And I was like, I was like a mess because she couldn't hold anything down. And you're just like.
That's what happened to throwing up recently with him. It's just like, oh, buddy.
You just look at me going, hey, man, I can't do this life without you now. Now that you've showed up, I need you forever.
And he's also in a spot, too, where he would throw up and then wouldn't bother him. He would, for one moment, it bother him. Then he wanted to play with his toys. And I'm like, no, buddy, you're sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the only time he would cuddle, too, which it's like he's at that age. Cuddling is not a thing yet.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he'll like hug me and stuff now, but it's not like he wants to just like lay on my lap and just chill.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I really believe this. I don't think children bond with their fathers until they're 2. Like, I did not have a bond with my children until they were like a bond where they needed dad.
Yeah, well, they need, I mean, like even last night when he woke up at 2, my wife went in first She had to give him a bottle, came back in, went back in. She's like, I need to make a bottle. So I grabbed him and he started screaming.
Yeah.
And she went and then I held him and I was like, I'm your dad. It's okay. And then he finally stopped. But there's those moments where there's nothing you can do.
And then, when it turns a corner, and it happened for Isla and Georgia at the exact same time. But when they turned 2, all of a sudden they got it. They were like, "Oh, you're here too. Oh, you're one of her. Oh, okay, I get it." Like, and I had great bonds with them after that. But like, I'd sit with Georgia. I'd sit cross-legged on the couch. This reminds me so much of having a baby. I'd sit cross-legged on the couch. I'd have a cup of coffee in this hand, and I'd have Georgia with her ass right here and her head right here, and I'd watch Tough Crowd. I'd get back off the road, and on Monday morning, I'd have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday's Tough Crowd to watch Monday morning. And so I'd sit with Georgia, or Tuesday morning, probably because I flew Monday. Tuesday morning, I'd sit with Georgia, and I'd catch up on all my Tough Crowds and let Leanne sleep. And I remember if Georgia did not want me to be there, I was like, Leanne, you got to get up. This fucking kid does not know me, does not like me, doesn't want me. Yeah, doesn't want me around. But yeah, once they turn 2 and the older they get.
Well, he's already kind of a daddy's boy. He definitely just says that's one of his main words. Everything is just dada.
Really?
And because we've done FaceTime on my wife's phone, he likes to pick up her phone a lot and say dada. Because sometimes I think he thinks we're 2 different people. This guy that he talks to in the phone and then this guy that's around 70% of the time.
I bet you're lucky. I didn't have FaceTime until you had it.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to FaceTime with them. I'd just be gone.
Yeah. No, and it really does help. And it also is just a bummer to like see stuff. And because I feel bad. I'm like, oh my God, I should be there pulling my load or something.
Yeah. God, I know that fucking feeling. So interesting, man. So interesting that how there are probably literally 100, no, not 100,000. There are probably 30,000 people listening to this that are in the exact same position we're in. And there's probably a solid 10 or a solid...
Who are good parents.
There's
who don't feel like they're abandoning their child.
There's probably I would say 500 people who, and this is what I always think about, who are probably in the military overseas and not seeing their kid at all.
Oh, God. I mean, that's that story. Even this is before I had a kid, but like that guy that I gave my sunglasses to. I mean, the thought of having a kid, never seeing it, and then knowing that kid probably thinks another dude's the dad, and going to that was like, that's got to be the worst. But it's like the depression on the road, I think I've found, and I've had to stop, like, because it can be easy to drink when you're on the road,
Yeah.
And the more, if I do drink a lot, that's when the real depression sets in of, I'm not there. Like, because you wake up and you feel like a scumbag. You're like, oh my God, I'm fucking hungover in a hotel room. Right now my wife's like hoping the baby goes down for a nap and then so she can have an hour of her self-time. And I'm just like hoping that I'm not hungover before my show tonight.
I've never noticed that at all. I'm the exact opposite where I go. If I'm sober and getting my shit done, that's when I really miss my kids. So I was like, I'd like to be sober around my kids. Oh. So like for me, the second we get to the club, or I won't drink until I get on stage. Out of my first drink is when I get on that second I get on stage. And in between 2 shows, I won't drink in between 2 shows. I usually only have 1 drink on stage. But then that night I'll definitely have a few pops and then wake up late the next morning and then I'm like, oh, fuck. And then I'll look at my watch and I'll be like, oh, everyone's just getting up because it's always East Coast. I'll give a call, fucking go back to sleep, work out. And then I'll be like, all right, I can do this. Get a fucking healthy meal. And like I'm putting the pieces back together.
Yeah, I'm going to rebuild this show.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I could not imagine doing the road without a couple beers.
No.
I've done it before, and it's fun. It's fun. I have much better shows. I'm much more focused. But as far as like missing my family,
just goes even more. See, for me, I'll have a beer before the show.
Yeah.
I like to have dinner and a beer, and then not drink if it's 2 shows. Not drink that first show, and then loosen up between shows.
Yeah.
I heard Rickles takes a shot of vodka before every set.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard Hedberg did that he liked to guzzle some whiskey so that when he got on stage, that buzz showed up. Because that's a fun, to feel a buzz show. And I've only done this a couple times, and oddly enough, it was last weekend. I did it twice, but I'd have a glass of Jameson that I'd get 10 minutes before the show, so it was a little starting to loosen up.
Oh, Jameson makes me sick just thinking about it.
Oh, I love it. And I'd pound it, and then all of a sudden the buzz would show up like my first 5 minutes into the show, and it was fun. It was like, and I remember hearing that Hedberg used to like to do that.
I remember one time at the Improv in Hollywood, you do like 10-minute sets. You're there to have a good time. And I was going to do a 10-minute set, and then somebody didn't show up, the guy that was supposed to close the show, and they come up and they go, can you do 35? I'm like, all right. And at the time I was going to do 10, no guitar, but at the time I didn't have any more than that. So I went out to my car to get my guitar, and on the way out, Doug Benson and Craig Robinson are lighting a joint. And they're like, do you want one? I'm like, oh yeah. So I take a couple hits, get my guitar, get in there. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Thune, get on stage. The high hit me 2 minutes into my set and then created a panic attack where I was dripping in sweat, cold sweat, and about to faint. Had to put myself up on a stool and then just ended early because I couldn't even handle it. Then later I realized, like, yeah, I smoked pot from probably the 2 guys that have the strongest pot you could ever have.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You smoked that Urca Gold pot.
Oh, God. I threw up right off stage.
Are you serious?
Because the panic attack sets in, especially if it's weed and it's like, and that's true. I never smoke weed.
You don't smoke weed on stage?
Never.
But you smoke regular weed.
Well, yeah, but I don't even like to smoke weed that much anymore. I'll smoke
really?
it every now and again if someone has it, but it just creates panic. It changed from me enjoying it to me like it making me think like, what am I doing? I'm in my 30s and I'm just like high on a Tuesday.
Yeah, I have a hard time. I have a hard time. I'm not the guy that can just smoke weed. I can't just like, I wish I really could. I genuinely wish I could just get done tonight, like pack, put the girls to bed, and then just know that I have this reward bong hit waiting at the end of the day where I could take a bong hit, watch Black Sails, and just fucking dial out. But I'm not the guy. If I do that, then all of a sudden I'm up and I'm like, okay, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, well, maybe I'd want to clean everything at that point.
Yeah, I don't mind. I remember definitely in college putting on reggae, opening all the windows to your house, getting high and cleaning was so much fucking fun.
Yeah, because you're accomplishing something.
Yeah.
2 things, actually.
Like, I'm not like that, and I couldn't do cocaine and go to a party. I could do cocaine and go play darts.
I don't think I could do cocaine. I've never done it.
Oh, really?
It's just a thing.
Oh,
I've had
neither
Adderall
then.
before.
Oh, it's
better, I'm sure, but
it is.
I don't like that either.
It's very euphoric.
I don't like an upper.
I love it. I'd rather uppers. Like, there was a period where my dad was doing a lot of speed. I don't think he knew it. It was a doctor prescribed to help him lose weight, and he gave me a couple, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding?" I was like, "This is amazing." Cocaine is the problem with cocaine is it's extremely euphoric. Like, just really heightened sense of reality, of just purpose, of like confidence, of saying to yourself. I remember one time being in a trolley car in New Orleans, and I remember saying to my buddy, these little handrails, I could rip them out. I could rip them out right now. I could rip them out and break them off and give it to you as a present. I'm not.
I could just rip this little hand part out.
Yeah, I'm so smart. I know that would bring suspicion to me because that's how smart I am. But I could do that. I need you to know that. And he was like, no, I got you. I could do it too. And we were like,
I don't even know. See, like the upper, I know that I would go.
We'll never do it. There's no reason to ever do cocaine.
See, like my Xanax stage, like I know how easy it was to take Xanax. I was taking it every flight. It was like,
yeah.
Oh, this just makes it. But then my shows were not being as good because I would show Xanax doesn't make you a good comedian.
And Xanax, the layover on a Xanax, the hangover on a Xanax, like I could not do Xanax and do radio the next day because if I was on a Xanax, I'd still be out of it. Like I'm trying to catch up. Hungover, I have a cup of coffee, my blood sugar spikes. I'm a different guy. I'm hyper aware and I'm fun on radio. I'm lighthearted.
When you're hungover?
Oh, I don't think I've ever done hungover radio not hungover because I'm better hungover.
I've done a couple good hungover radios, but I've also been doing radio hungover and just thinking like I need to throw up right now.
Oh, I've never done that.
This is bad.
I just say, hey, do you guys have anything to drink around here? And they'll be like, what? I go, anyone got any whiskey? And they always light up like, yeah. I was like, let's all have a drink. And then all of a sudden you have 2 morning drinks, 2 morning drinks on fucking radio. After a little bit of a hangover, it kicks back in, and it's the greatest radio you've ever done. Yeah, I love that radio. But yeah, I could not take Xanax. I could take Xanax and just fly. I can do that. But the problem is I have to have nothing to do the next day, and I need to really have like a recuperation.
The hangover.
Day.
Well, that's just chemicals, the pills.
Yeah,
and that's the thing about Coke too, like the chemicals. That's what scares me about it.
Oh, dude, the day after Coke, that's the main reason I don't do Coke at all, and I haven't done it in probably 15 years, probably 20 years, maybe even more. I don't even know. But is that hangover is there is nothing comparable. There's nothing comparable. It is, and I don't know what everyone's belief on heaven and hell is, but cocaine is the awareness that there is a hell. And there is the possibility that you will go there one day if you don't change your fucking.
Oh yeah.
I mean, for me, and there's some people that can do it and just I don't give a fuck. Dude.
Yeah, and those are the people that know that it's not a problem for them. They'd probably just do it every now and again.
Yeah, it was that next day, and I remember being like, I'd had Chinese food. The last time I did it, I thought I'd had Chinese food, and I was like, was there MSG in that? Like, I was like, I'm fucking freaking out.
But also, you drink more when you're on coke, right? So the hangover settles in, the alcohol hangover, because you never really hit like you're wasted because the coke is supposedly evening you out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
you
just
definitely drink. The last time I did it was at Jordan Rubin's house. Jordan Rubin did not do it, but I was with a bunch of models, and they had it, and they were like, "Do you want to do some?" And I was like, I remember saying no, but saying to Jordan, "Hey, do you mind if we get high in your room?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And we went into his room, and he followed us. And then one of the girls took the mirror off his wall, and he went, "Whoa, what are you doing?" And I was like, "They're doing coke." And he was like, "Oh, I thought you guys were getting high." I was like, how disrespectful. We would never smoke pot in your room.
We just want to do coke off your mirror.
And they did it. And I remember Jordan just being like, holy, like blown away. And I think I did it that night. And I think we ended up at the Bag It In throwing darts or something. Or maybe at like the McDougal Street Cafe, McDougal Ale House, or it's right across from the cellar. And just throwing darts all night. And I lived right above that. So I went up, passed out. We all passed out in my room. We got McDonald's like at fucking 5 a.m. or something. Woke up. I was like, I'm fine. And then that night, I was like holding on to my couch going, I'll never do this again.
When you feel that way, that's when you question. I mean, the hangover,
Yeah. I'm like that on long flights now. Like I'm very measured on my drinking on long flights because the next day is what bothers me.
Well, because that's also dehydrate. The flight and the alcohol are double dehydrating you. And then you land in Denver or something, and it's like fucking altitude. The elevation, yeah.
Altitude. And that's fucking
altitude and booze is just the worst.
Altitude in general. I get altitude sick every time I go fucking to altitude. I think it's because I'm so dehydrated. I'm genuinely dehydrated 100% of my life. I think that'll be the death of me. If I get cancer,
my wife we had these delivered. I have to drink. She makes me drink one a day.
What is it?
It's just water.
Really?
But it's just like that much water just is so good for you.
I'm so glad. So glad you're with your wife. It seems like,
she holds me together.
It seems like something that will never fail. You know what I mean?
God, I hope.
I'm the same way.
And the thought of like divorce when you see it happen, and it's like, oh, the kids.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I have to absolutely shit my brains out right now.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up. That's good. That was a solid 2:15.
Is it all right to shit here?
Oh, of course. What do you have to promote?
No, like right here. That's a good way to end a podcast, right, for the fans?
A perfect way to end a podcast. Hashtag shit my brains out.
NickThune.com. All my tour dates, which when would this go out?
When do you want it to go out? Do you have anything?
Whenever, I don't care. But probably not to promote my shows this weekend, though. But I'm going to be at like different festivals and yeah.
You'll be at South by Southwest, and that is next week.
Yeah. And I've got my Netflix special, Folk Hero.
Yeah, and you have Thick Noon.
Thick Noon, first album.
Yeah.
Best album ever.
So go see him live. You'll love it. I honestly, and I'm telling you, I've said this since the beginning of this podcast, I have been a fan of yours since the first time I ever saw you do stand-up. I enjoy you as a person, and if you go back and you listen to his WTF with Marin, which I'm sure is in his archives now, it's probably...
I think you have to pay to hear that
but
one.
It is so... There's no way you won't fall in love with Nick as a human being because it is honest, and that's what I love in stand-up is honest people that are honest and they don't give a fuck how it sounds. I love that in stand-up, and you'll love his fucking...
It needs to happen more and more.
It doesn't. And I don't do it sometimes. I'm very vulnerable about talking about anxiety on stage. I feel like... I feel like I can't even talk about all the shit I do on Travel Channel because I feel like I'm isolating people, like I'm alienating them. But, all right. Check him out. Hey, thank you for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This episode was brought to you by The Machine.